The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601, Calm. Suddenly someone appeared out of nowhere and blocked the way, shocking the four peak martial emperors so much that their faces changed drastically. This breath, this momentum. They immediately realized that this guy was definitely a master of masters. Who are you? A martial emperor from the demonic sect hurriedly bowed. Jun Changxiao. Jun Changxiao? The leader of the eternal sect? The four martial emperors looked surprised. When they came, they had already learned the information that this guy was a double king of sword and martial arts. How could he have the ability to fly? A martial emperor questioned. Are you really Jun Changxiao? Huh. The leader of the Jun sect slapped him, seemingly very soft, but it hit the opponent's left face and immediately shot towards the ground. Boom. The ground sank, forming a big pit. The martial emperor's face was not only crooked, but his whole body was completely broken, and he fainted on the spot. Hiss. The other three were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. Killing a peak martial emperor in seconds. Could this guy be a half-step martial saint? No. Just now, the space was shaking so much, and he walked out of it. This super strong control of space means that this boy is martial saint. The three people exclaimed in unison. Bang. Bang, bang. Jun Changxiao didn't hesitate and slapped each of them, and they fell to the ground like three cannonballs. When they came, the four brothers were still discussing how to intimidate the eternal ancient sect and how to get back the spirit stones. In particular, the two peak martial emperors of the god-killing temple met the strong men of the demonic evil sect on the way and expressed their willingness to help. They only needed to give 1,000 or 800 spirit stones. As a result, they fell to the street before they even arrived at Tegu Mountain. It was more miserable than the great elder of the extreme cold palace. At least he killed the eternal ancient sect and caused trouble. Plop, plop. The four peak martial emperors fell on the martial arts field one after another, and the origin of their souls was controlled by Jun Changxiao. Counting the palace master of the extreme cold palace just now, the five of them can just create the strongest group and go to the west to obtain the scriptures. Master, Elder Wei sent a voice message. Leave them to clean the courtyard? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, peak martial emperors should be very valuable. Lock them up and let the two evil sects pay for ransom. The great elder who controls the extreme cold palace means that the extreme cold palace is no longer a threat. The third-rate evil sect is different. Killing the four peak martial emperors will only make the other party in the sect fight to the death. Forcibly keeping them as servants will definitely not give up. The best way is to squeeze every bit of value out of them to bring more resources to the sect. The little abacus was snapping. For the two evil sects, they thought that sending four peak martial emperors could deter the eternal ancient sect, but in the end they became Zhu Jinjiang who sent Christmas gifts. Elder Wei said, peak martial emperors are also one of the strongest. The demonic evil sect and the killing god temple should be happy to pay for ransom. Lock them up. Jun Changxiao said loudly. Swish, swish. Su Xiaomo, Li Fei and others ran over again and took all the four unconscious people away. First send the half-step martial saint to jail, then send the four peak martial emperors to jail, so that they can have a sense of accomplishment. Yes. Such a high and mighty strong man. Ordinary martial artists can only look up to him. How could he be sent to jail personally? Swish. Mu Changhang landed on the martial arts field. Note, the sect protection formation is currently paralyzed. Lord Mu. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, thank you for your help. Jun is grateful. Very sincere. The Grand Elder of the Extreme Cold Palace suddenly came and did not give him time to buy items from the mall. If Mu Changhang had not helped, the Eternal Sect might have been in trouble at this moment. Mistake, mistake. This situation must never happen again. Mu Changhang said, in fact, if I don't take action, your Eternal Sect will not be in trouble. It's not that Jun Changxiao's cultivation exploded, but that the little dragon rushed out. Based on its state at the time, Mu Changhang speculated that it should definitely offset part of the power of the palm print, and then be resisted by the sect protection formation. The consequence is that they will be seriously injured or die directly. Fortunately, such a vicious plot did not happen. Jun Changxiao said again, "Thank you Xianyu Academy and the Certification Center for your help in secret." A strong man from Xianyu Academy flew out and said awkwardly, "The Wangu sect was able to resolve this difficulty because of City Lord Mu and Sect Master Jun. We didn't help, and I'm ashamed to say it. As long as people come, it means they have a heart." Jun Changxiao didn't care whether they helped or not. He bowed and said, "Go back and tell Dean Situ and Master Yi that I will remember this favor. If you need my Wangu sect in the future, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. A decent person." Swish. Picking up the unconscious Xiao Longlong, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, "My contracted beast is a little seriously injured, so I'm sorry I can't send you off." Mu Changhang's mouth twitched slightly. He wanted to stay and take a good look at this son-in-law. Whatever. There will be many opportunities in the future. Mu Changhang bowed and said, "Master Jun, I will take my leave first." He and the two powerful men from the two organizations, hidden in the dark, flew away one after another. The Wangu sect, which was originally shrouded in dark clouds and had a solemn atmosphere, returned to peace. The news that the half-step martial saint and the two powerful men from the evil sect were invading swept across the southwest Yangzhou that day, causing an unimaginable sensation. The focus of everyone's discussion was not that the Grand Elder of the Extreme Cold Palace was beaten to a pulp, but why Jun Changxiao was so strong. "I heard that Master Jun used his magical powers to summon the heroic spirits of the ancestors of the Eternal Sect, and his strength suddenly soared to that of Martial Saint. My god, this is too awesome." When recruiting from the 100 sects, Master Jun once said that the Eternal Sect's heritage is from ancient times. Now it seems that what he said is true. No wonder it seems to have risen suddenly. It turns out that it is a sect that inherits ancient times. Jun Changxiao's boasting has now blossomed everywhere. This also has an advantage, at least it allows many people to reluctantly accept why the Eternal Sect has risen in a short period of time. When the news spread to other states, and when the major sects learned about it, they would definitely discuss it seriously. Is this sect really inherited from ancient times? The concept of ancient times is very vague, and is usually defined by the world as 10,000 years ago. The Eternal Sect's heritage from ancient times means that it has at least 10,000 years of history. In that era, there were many strong people and masters, which is not comparable to modern times. So from obscurity to thunderous fame, it seems to be reasonable to explain it as an ancient sect. And the word eternal doesn't seem so arrogant. After all, the sect has existed for 10,000 years. Look, when Sect Master Jun boasted, others helped to force their imaginations to make the lies more and more real. On the other hand, City Master Mu was just one in heaven and one on earth. "Master." In the study, the little fairy held the tea and said, "It's freshly brewed." "Yeah." Jun Changxiao took it, but his hands were shaking violently. He could only hear the constant collision of the teacup and the tea lid, and there was a crackling sound. Just now, he was so arrogant that he abused the half-saint, but now he has trouble holding a teacup. This is the side effect of the Kyankan talisman. At this moment, Sect Master Jun is completely a weak scholar who can't even tie a chicken. However, he is not depressed. It is worth it to be able to directly promote to the Martial Saint with the help of the talisman and abuse the Grand Elder of the Extreme Cold Palace with his own hands. What's more, at the king level, it can benefit a little to experience the saint level first. "Master." The little fairy stared at the little dragon lying in the nest and said fiercely, "When this clown bug wakes up, you have to teach it a lesson." With good intentions, he helped him resist the palm print, but was beaten down. It was unreasonable. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Girl, it did this because it was worried that you would get hurt. Although the means were a bit extreme, its original intention was also good." Humph. The little fairy pouted and said, "It must be taking the opportunity to bully me." Chapter 602 Epic Mission, Keg. Xiao Langlong was not seriously injured, but fell into a short coma due to the violent explosion. It was fine. Sect Master Jun was in trouble. The spiritual energy in the spiritual cause was sealed by some special power, and he was completely reduced to a useless person. This is the price that must be paid for crushing the talisman of heaven and earth and obtaining explosive cultivation. Jun Chang smiled and said, the side effects last for a year. How should I survive? The system said, the host is just suppressed in realm, and there is no restriction in perception. You can continue to practice. Okay. Jun Chang smiled and said, practice honestly. Looking at the unconscious Xiao Long Long, he said, the previous illusion should be a 5-clawed dragon. Could this be the body of Xiao Long Long? He always regarded this contracted beast as a fire dragon beast. Even if there are differences, they are attributed to mutation. Now it seems that things are not that simple. The system said, what the host brought back should not be a fire dragon egg, but a dragon egg. No wonder Xiao Long Long's strength is so strong every time he evolves. Jun Chang smiled and murmured. The system said, it is also related to mutation. So, when it was hatched earlier, it was worth investing in the crystal core regardless of the cost. He lay on the bed and chose to sleep. He slept until the sun rose the next day before waking up. Although his cultivation was still suppressed, he was at least a little more energetic than yesterday. From the inner courtyard to the outer courtyard, many disciples could see that the sect master had lost the momentum of yesterday and became very ordinary. Without his cultivation, Jun Changxiao was now just an ordinary person. Sect master. When he came to the hall and sat down, Li Qingyang worriedly asked, are you okay? No problem. Jun Changxiao said, give orders to let the disciples practice diligently. Yes. Li Qingyang said. Jun Changxiao called Li Luoqiu again and told her to pay more attention to procurement and intelligence, and then went to the gathering spirit array. The Yi Jinjing was running, and the spiritual power of heaven and earth roared in. You can practice, but the spirit core is always sealed by some power. You can only enter but not leave. Jun Changxiao is now forced to become an ordinary person. His cultivation of the 9th grade sword and martial arts king is completely unable to explode. Well, I can't waste my time. I can only practice peacefully. A few days later, Jun Changxiao was practicing in the spirit gathering array, and a reminder sounded in his ears. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, world famous, and obtaining 5,000 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value 14,990/20,000 point. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, world famous, and obtaining hidden rewards, experience symbol X1, top grade qualification transformation liquid X5, and the right to purchase the secret realm of time and space. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task and obtaining the title of famous. During this period, as the news continued to spread, the eternal ancient sect in the Starfall continent could really be described as world famous. Recently, the chance of completing a task to get an experience symbol is very high, Jun Changxiao said. In the past, completing hidden or side quests mostly rewarded qualification liquid. The system said, it's because it's upgraded to version 2.0. Okay. Jun Changxiao didn't rush to crush the experience symbol, but opened the purchased items column and clicked on the secret realm of time and space. Item, secret realm of time and space. Introduction, a special secret realm that gathers itself in the vast universe. Function, time is accelerated inside, and people who are in it can practice faster than normal people. Advantages, people in the sect can enter at will, without level restrictions. Disadvantages, under time acceleration, it will consume an equal amount of life. Level, first grade secret realm. Price, 10,000 contribution points. Time acceleration? Jun Changxiao murmured, it seems a bit complicated. The system said, this is a product that can only be refreshed in the high level mall. It is recommended that the host buy 10 stars. It's a bit expensive. Jun Changxiao frowned and said. The system said, under time acceleration, disciples can practice faster. Even if it's a little expensive, it's worth it. I'll think about it. Jun Changxiao didn't buy the secret realm of time and space right away. Anyway, it was in the purchased column, so he wasn't afraid of refreshing and replacing it. Snap. Crush the talisman of experience. Sect Master Jun successfully entered the peaking level. However, because his spirit core was sealed, no spiritual energy emerged at all, which was very mediocre. The most tragic thing was that after the breakthrough, because he could not burst out his power, Sect Master Jun could not test how strong he was now. This was definitely a torture. If he had known this, he would have bought mechanical armed wings. Just when Sect Master Jun was regretting, a crisp system prompt sounded in his ears. Ding. The host broke through the peak Martial King, met the requirements, and the epic mission started. Ding. The Sect Master broke through the peak Sword King, met the requirements, and the epic mission started. Jun Changxiao was a little confused. He hurriedly opened the system panel, and saw that there were actually 2 epic missions on it. Damn. The Sword King and the Martial King reached the peak level, and here comes the double yolk egg. In the past, when reaching the peak of each level, the epic mission would be activated. As the Sword King and the Martial King, Jun Changxiao reached the peak level and directly received 2 epic missions, which was unexpected for him. Click on the first mission, Epic Mission 5. Mission details. Within half a year, the sect disciples break through to the peak Martial Zhang. 19/500, King level. 3/50, and the elders break through to the peak Martial King. 0/1. Mission failure, not achieved within the specified time. Mission reward. 50 Martial Kings, 1 peak Martial King. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, this epic mission is a bit difficult. Peak Martial Zhang is not too difficult. After all, with the assistance of various resources, the disciples should be able to achieve it easily. However, 50 Martial Kings are a bit difficult. Li Qingyang and his team are sure to break through to the Martial King, but there are only more than 20 inner disciples. Who will fill the remaining nearly 30 places? It seems impossible for the elders to reach the peak Martial King. After all, the Ning brothers are only 5th grade. They reach the peak level in 6 months, and they must ensure that they break through 1 level every month. Wait. Jun Changxiao suddenly remembered something and said, the herbs planted by Wen Leo should be mature in half a year. After refining the Wu Wang pill, wouldn't it be easy for them to reach the standard by taking it? In this way, all they need to do is let more disciples break through the peak Wu Zhang, and then take off directly with the help of the pill. If you want them to break through faster, the host still has to buy the space-time secret realm. The system said. Not bad. Jun Changxiao also thought so. According to the existing resources, it may not be possible to meet the conditions within half a year. If there are some higher level training facilities, it will definitely improve the chances. What's more, there must be hidden indicators in the task conditions of the epic task. If more disciples meet the requirements, they will definitely exceed the requirements and get more generous rewards. The space-time secret realm must be bought. Jun Changxiao retreated to the attribute panel and clicked on the second epic task. Epic task 6. Task details. The 3-year appointment is coming. At that time, please ask the host to bring the disciples to the Lily Holy Sect to challenge and regain the dignity that the disciples Iozuji once lost. Task failure. Failure to go on the agreed date or defeat by the Lily Holy Sect. Task reward. Jun Changxiao was surprised and said, this epic mission is actually related to Zuji's 3-year agreement. PS. Sorry, I'm late for today's update due to something else. There will be another update later. Chapter 603, Secret Realm of Space and Time. Strictly speaking, the 3-year agreement between Xiaozuji and Mirangxin was facilitated by Jun Changxiao. Now that it has become an epic task, it can be said that it is his own fault. The task only says to challenge and regain Xiaozuji's lost dignity. There is no detailed information at all. How to judge the completion? Is it the same as challenging the Shenquan sect, directly fighting disciples, and winning enough games? The Lily Holy Sect is a second-rate sect, and the disciples must be strong. This battle will probably be very difficult. What makes Jun Changxiao relieved is that he has been weak for a year, and the second epic task is to go to the 3-year appointment. There is just more than a year left, and this gap is very subtle. Comfortable. Sect Master Jun stretched. Breaking through the peak level, the realm will be stuck by the epic task, so he doesn't need to practice at all at this moment. Just consider how to complete the task. Swipe. Pull open the purchased items column and choose the time and space secret realm. Ding. The host consumes 10,000 contribution points and obtains one space-time secret realm, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 4,990/20,000 point. The spacetime secret realm is not a physical entity, but a vortex similar to a teleportation array, standing in the space ring. How do I use this thing? Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, just summon it, and place it in a fixed position. Understood. Jun Changxiao came to the back mountain, stopped near the training tower, and immediately summoned the spacetime secret realm. But the surrounding space suddenly became distorted, and an elliptical vortex gradually gathered, flashing a special light, and filled with heavy momentum. Sect Master Suzaomo came over, and asked in surprise, what is this? Li Qingyang and others also gathered around one after another, looking at the flashing vortex, and talked about it with puzzled faces. Could this be? He Wudi was suddenly shocked and said, a secret realm in the universe. Above the mortal world is an endless and vast universe. In the laws of heaven and earth, some strange vortices gradually gather, and there is another world inside, so it is called a secret realm. In fact, it is similar to the forbidden land of Xingyan continent. The secret realm is a self-contained system. It is not only special, but also dangerous, so generally few people dare to set foot in it. He Wudi had a strong cultivation base in the past. He had gone to the secret realm alone or with others. The process was a life and death struggle, but he also obtained a lot of genius treasures. This is a secret realm of time and space. Jun Chang smiled and said, after entering, you can speed up time and help improve your cultivation. My god, so magical. Everyone exclaimed. He Wudi was also deeply shocked. A secret realm with time acceleration in his own universe will definitely make all the strong people crazy. Could it be left by Senior Kixuan Saint? Being able to move the secret realm directly to the lower realm, the cultivation base is indeed through the sky and the earth. He Wuda's eyes were filled with awe. Master, he said vigilantly, is there no danger in there? Whether there is danger or not, you will know when you go in. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Although He Wudi was afraid, he felt that everyone was staring at him, so he had to bite the bullet and said, then I will go in and find out. Swish. He stepped out resolutely. However, just as he was about to go in, Yi Xingchen merged into the vortex faster than him. This guy. He Wudi thought to himself, the ignorant are really fearless. Let's go in and take a look. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others followed him into the secret realm of time and space. Jun Changxiao also went there. How magical is this time acceleration? Buzz. In a seemingly endless space, Yi Xingchen, He Wudi and others entered one after another. The space inside was distorted, and there was no danger except for a little coldness. Master. Suzaomo scratched her head and said, it seems that there is nothing special. Yes. He Wudi said in a very solemn tone, the flow of time here is accelerated. We are in it, so we can't feel it. Yi Xingchen also noticed it. But as to how much time has accelerated, it is unknown. Look. Li Fei pointed above and said, words appear. Jun Changxiao and all the disciples looked up at the same time and saw that words gradually emerged in the space that seemed to be folded up. Secret realm of space and time. Time accelerated. 50 times. 50 times. He Wuda's eyes almost popped out. Jun Changxiao touched his nose and said with a smile, 50 days of cultivation here, only one day in the outside world. Not bad. He Wudi said. It was difficult for him to calm down. 50 times of time acceleration for a martial artist, that is really terrifying. Chang Zhao shook his head and said, it's a bit less. A bit less? The corners of He Wuda's mouth twitched violently. Master, if the secret space-time realm is discovered in the upper realm, the major forces will definitely occupy it at all costs, and even set off a terrible bloody storm. High-level martial artists do not rely on genius treasures, because these things are not available every day. So using time to practice is the only way to become stronger. There is 50 times of time acceleration in the secret space-time realm. 1 year of practice is equivalent to 50 years of practice. This is absolutely terrifying. Wait. There is no heaven and earth attribute in the secret realm. After realizing this, he wooed his heart suddenly cooled down. There is only 50 times of time acceleration, but no heaven and earth attribute to provide practice, which is useless. Master, he said in great frustration, there is no heaven and earth attribute here, so it cannot be used for cultivation. Jun Changxiao said, why not draw the external attributes here? He said speechlessly, the secret realm is a self-contained system, and the external attributes may not be integrated into it. Try it. Jun Changxiao left the time and space secret realm. He stayed inside for a few minutes, and only a few seconds passed in the outside world. The heaven and earth attributes of the middle grade spirit gathering array were drawn from the place where the spiritual power was revived. Master Jun pulled out a branch from it like modifying a water pipe, and led it to the time and space secret realm. Hoo-hoo, the majestic heaven and earth spiritual power rushed in frantically along the vortex. Gradually, the internal space had a heaven and earth attribute that was dozens of times stronger than other places. This, he was dumbfounded. The secret realm is an independent space, how can the external attributes come in? The secret realm he knew was the secret realm in the universe. The time and space secret realm came from them all, so it naturally had its own unique features. Oh 98k. Jun Changxiao clapped his hands and said, the spiritual energy problem has been solved. You can practice here when you have nothing to do in the future. Sect Master. Suzaomo smiled and said, can you set up a spirit gathering array here? Pa. Jun Changxiao hit him on the head and said, you are really smart. This seat has not cultivated you in vain. Suzaomo's words woke the dreamer up. He hurriedly called Zendejan and said, set up a spirit gathering array here. Ah. Zendejan was startled and said, Sect Master, I don't know how to do it. Aren't you the Array King? I'm the Array King, but I have never seen the array and the protective array set up by the Sect Master. In addition to teaching his disciples during this period, Zen Leo had studied the middle grade spirit gathering array. Although he could peek into the internal lines, he was still shocked. Too awesome. Too perfect. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, I have a secret book called the 32 Formations of Kimen here. You can study it first. Huh. Zendejan took it and subconsciously opened it, and then his expression changed again and again. As an expert in formations, there was no need to overanalyze. Just from the arrangement of various formation lines and formations, he could tell that the 32 Formations of Kimen was indeed a masterpiece of formations. Chapter 604, Honesty is the Natural Thing. During the trip to Luzhou in northeast China, Zendejan's madness was very much to Jun Changxiao's liking. They were birds of a feather. Moreover, he was appointed as the elder of the formation hall, and he had long planned to hand over the 32 Formations of Kimen to him, so arranging the spirit gathering formation in the secret realm was a very good opportunity. To put it bluntly, it was nothing more than paving the way for being a hands-off shopkeeper in the future. After getting a copy of the 32 Formations of Kimen, Zendejan began to study it, and even did not eat the food cooked by Liu Wanshi for a whole day. This was absolutely intoxicating. He did not disappoint Jun Changxiao. In just a few days, he successfully comprehended the middle grade spirit gathering formation. Swish, swish. In the secret realm of time and space, the formation flags flew out and were regularly inserted in fixed positions. After the formation was arranged, the formation lines began to be outlined. But everything was done. The stream of light soared into the sky, and the middle grade spirit gathering formation condensed out. Awesome, awesome. Jun Changxiao, who was hiding in the distance, applauded. Why did he keep his distance? Worried that Master Zen's first arrangement would fail and cause an explosion. In terms of qualifications, the 9th rank Array King is not inferior to Jun Changxiao, who relies on the qualification transformation fluid. Master, Zendejan said, I will continue to comprehend the 32 Formations of Kimen. Go, go. Jun Changxiao entered the gathering spirit array, feeling the 100 times the heaven and earth attributes inside, and murmured, with the 50 times time acceleration here, the cultivation speed will only be more terrifying. Within half a year, it will be easy for more disciples to break through to the peak of martial arts. 50 times the time, 100 times the spiritual power blessing, 1 year in the outside world, 50 years of cultivation here, it will definitely take off. Moreover, another advantage of the secret realm of time and space is that, if you are stuck in a certain realm, you can use time to comprehend and break through, which is something that the 100 times gathering spirit array cannot do. But there are also flaws. Under time acceleration, lifespan is also consumed quickly. For example, if a person practices in it for 50 years, although only 1 year has passed in the outside world, 50 years of lifespan is equivalent to consumption. When a martial arts practitioner who is about to die enters the secret realm of space and time, if he cannot achieve a breakthrough to a great realm and thus improve his lifespan as a whole, he will commit suicide quickly. The disciples are all very young. As long as they break through a great realm, their lifespan can be increased. This shortcoming is not a big problem. Let them practice in it for 100 years, and only 2 years have passed in the outside world. After they come out, they may even break through to the martial emperor, not to mention the martial king. Just as the Jun clan leader began to fantasize about a better tomorrow, the system suddenly said, entering the secret realm of space and time, according to the outside world, you can only practice for 3 days. If you exceed 1 second, you will be automatically sent out. Jun Changxiao was stunned and said, why didn't the introduction mention the time limit? Not saying it doesn't mean there is no time limit. The system said. Damn. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, only practice for 3 days. This is too stingy. 3 days is equal to 150 days, which is a big gap from his fantasy of practicing for dozens or hundreds of years. The system said, after all, it is a primary secret realm. If the host wants to get more time and acceleration effects, he has to buy a higher level secret realm. This is really a cold shower. The passionate Jun Changxiao now felt cold all over. Don't stand there. The system said, the current time flow rate is 50 times faster. If the host is in a daze for a few seconds, he will waste a few minutes of life. Either practice quickly, or get out quickly. Swish. Jun Changxiao hurriedly withdrew. He has now reached the peak level, and his realm is stuck. There is definitely no need to practice, so why waste his life in it? Hey. Jun Changxiao comforted himself. 3 days is 3 days. At least every month can be accelerated by 5 months, and a year can be accelerated by several years. That's right. He slapped his forehead and said, can my side effects be offset in the secret realm? The system was silent for a while, and said, in theory, it can. The disciples of the eternal ancient sect used to come to the back mountain, and enter the spirit gathering array to practice. Now they tacitly enter the time and space secret realm in batches. Because there are only 3 days, everyone worked extra hard, practicing every minute and every second, and dared not slack off. Woody, who was already suspected of cheating, would only be more attractive to the Buddha with the 50-fold time acceleration. In order to offset the side effects, Jun Changxiao also came in. But he did not practice, but used his mind to comprehend martial arts and formations. This is the benefit of the secret realm of time and space. It does not necessarily have to be used to improve martial arts, but can also better comprehend various martial arts. As the system said, after 150 days of comprehending the secret realm, Jun Changxiao and the first batch of disciples who entered were sent out one after another. Many disciples used time, formations, elixirs and other things to break through several levels in 5 months, and the speed was obviously much faster than before. Jun Changxiao finally understood why the time limit was needed. Such an awesome time acceleration, if it is unlimited, with the cultivation facilities of his own sect, how terrifying it would be if the disciples practiced in it for 2 years and came out. It was originally hell mode. If you don't limit the time and practice without restraint, it will become a simple mode in minutes. Oh. Why can't you be invincible as you want? Although it was only 3 days, the disciples benefited greatly, which made Jun Changxiao very satisfied. Next, he called Jiangzi and the Ning brothers and said, don't teach the disciples for the time being. You must reach the peak martial king level within half a year. Half a year? Peak martial king? Jiangzi's mouth twitched and said, Master, this is difficult. Jun Changxiao threw 3 space rings and said, each ring contains 50,000 natural spirit stones. Do you have the confidence to break through? The most difficult epic task is for the elders to break through the peak martial king. In order to complete it, they would rather use spirit stones to smash it. Besides, 100,000 of them were snatched from the demon sect. Why don't you feel sorry for using them? I can break through. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers vowed. Time is accelerated, spiritual power is 100 times, and now there are 50,000 natural spirit stones. I'm absolutely confident. Jun Changxiao had a bold idea to move the medicine garden into the secret realm of time and space, but the 3-day time limit made him give up the idea. Sect Master Li Qingyang came to report. The demonic sect and the god-killing temple sent a letter saying that they want to have a good talk. You can't sit still after just a few days, Jun Changxiao said. The 4 peak martial emperors are still in custody. Although they are not intended to be used as servants, it is at least a huge fortune. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, tell the 2 evil sects in a letter that each head is 50,000 natural spirit stones. Deliver within half a month, otherwise wait for the body to be collected. Only 50,000? Zendejin said, isn't it a little too little? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, if you ask for too much, it will only anger the 2 sects. The price of 50,000 should be within their tolerance. Sure enough, after learning the conditions, the 2 evil sects considered again and again, and gritted their teeth, and spent 100,000 natural spirit stones to redeem their 2 peak martial emperors. Didn't they think of sending a strongman to ask for the people directly? Not to mention that Mu Changhang has already broken through to the level of half-step martial saint. Even Jun Changxiao has some magical powers that can be promoted to the level of martial saint. Sending people over is just to continue to send rice. At the mountain gate, Sect Master Jun personally saw them off and said with a smile, this seat has given you the pass. You can continue to go to the west to obtain the scriptures. Although the 4 peak martial emperors who were released did not understand, they could only drag their bodies away sadly. Everyone, Jun Changxiao shouted, come and play often, when you are free. Sect Master Li Qingyang said, did you really let them go? Of course not. Jun Changxiao said seriously, the 2 sects paid the ransom, and we, the eternal ancient sect, naturally have to be honest. Sect Master Suzaomo said weakly, have the soul origins of the 4 of them been returned? Pa. Jun Changxiao took out the records of the Grand Historian, hit him on the forehead, and said, you are the only one who talks too much. Hurry up and go to practice for this seat. Chapter 605, Sect Strength, Overall Improvement. The demonic evil sect and the god-killing temple sent 200,000 natural spirit stones, and Jun Changxiao, who was honest, would naturally let them go. However, the soul origin was not handed over, and it was still controlling their life and death. The sect master Jun meant to keep it first, maybe it would come in handy in the future. The 4 martial emperors knew that the soul origin had been taken away, but they certainly didn't dare to say it after returning. After all, their lives were in the hands of others, and they could be wiped out at any time. Give all 200,000 spirit stones to the disciples, so that they can break through faster. Epic Mission 5 must be completed within half a year, and the sect master Jun will not be stingy. However, such a large amount of spirit stones, distributed to nearly 10,000 disciples, only about 20 per person. If you really rely on spirit stones to forcibly improve your cultivation, it will be extremely costly. Not to mention the 5th-rate sects, even the 1st and 2nd-rate sects may not be able to do it. Fortunately, the sect master Jun does not rely too much on spirit stones. The emergence of the secret realm and the combination of the spirit gathering array are the main channels for disciples to become stronger. My dears, break through as much as you can in the past 6 months. The 4 peak martial emperors gained freedom, but the great elder of the extreme cold palace was a tragedy. At this moment, he has recovered from his injuries and is dragging his slightly aged body to clean up the fallen leaves and dust on the martial arts field. The 12 meridians are blocked, making him like a useless person. The origin of his soul is controlled again, and his life and death are not his own, and he can only be a servant. It is really sad that a half-step martial saint has fallen to this point. The disciples who have entered the secret realm of time and space continue to practice in the spirit gathering array and the training tower in the back mountain, and they don't want to waste any time. The disciples who have not entered the secret realm enter in order. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers put aside all distractions and focus on practice, just to break through the peak martial king faster. The practice style of the sect is more intense. Jun Changxiao, who was stuck in the realm of epic tasks, focused on managing the sect and comprehending martial arts. Outside, the discussion of him and the Wangu sect by the warriors has not ended, and the prestige is constantly increasing. Some large sects, knowing that Jun Changxiao can defeat the half-step martial saint, are all in awe, but they are more curious about whether this sect is inherited from ancient times. Many people began to read the historical records, but they did not find any records, which also made the eternal ancient sect covered with a layer of mysterious gauze. Even though it is impossible to determine whether this sect is inherited from ancient times, no one dares to provoke it easily. After all, it must be very strong to defeat the half-step martial saint. As for the demonic sect and the killing god temple, they can only suffer a dumb loss and force themselves to become transparent. The most shocked is Luzhao in the northeast. The great elder of the extreme cold palace, a strong man who broke through the half-step martial saint, ended up falling in the eternal ancient sect. After the leader of the Zuanling sect and others learned about it, their first reaction was dumbfounded. They were originally planning to laugh at the eternal ancient sect, but they didn't expect this result. In particular, at the extreme cold palace, Jun Changxiao was not panicked at all when facing his 8 martial emperors. It turned out that there was such a terrifying trump card. Fortunately, the woman appeared with a token. Otherwise, if he really angered him, he and the sect would definitely be in trouble. Speaking of the token, we have to mention Lu Qian. When she was in the boundless ice sea, she felt the semi-saint aura of the great elder of the extreme cold palace, and realized that the sect might be in trouble, so she hurried back. As a result, just halfway through, she heard that the sect master had abused the other party. He is a martial saint? Lu Qian's eyes were filled with astonishment. After thinking again and again, she returned to Northeast Luzhao to continue practicing. I have clearly shown the Ice Emperor's order, but the Northeast Luzhao forces still dare to cause trouble for the sect. Do they think they are not serious enough? I have to find a time to teach them a lesson. How long this time is, Lu Qian can't be sure, because she hasn't completely understood the Ice Emperor's inheritance. However, if you dare to provoke the eternal ancient sect, you will definitely not forgive it. When you have strength, first reorganize all the sects inherited from the Ice Emperor. A month later, the overall strength of the disciples of the eternal ancient sect has been greatly improved. Jun Changxiao opened the attribute panel. The number of peak martial sects in the epic mission 5 has reached 200, but the king level and peak martial king have not changed. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others are different from Yi Xingchen. Even with time acceleration, it is difficult to peak into the king level. Jun Changxiao is not worried. In his opinion, there are 5 months left, and there will be no problem breaking through. It won't take 5 months. When Li Qingyang and others entered the secret realm of time and space for cultivation in the 2nd month, and were automatically sent out, they suddenly burst out with a breakthrough momentum and successfully entered the martial king. They don't have the martial arts experience of Yi Xingchen's previous life, nor do they have the mental method of Taixu and Zhenjing. It is also excellent to reach the martial king so quickly. Ding, ding. The reminder sounded continuously for a day. The number of kings in Epic Mission 5 has increased to 8, and the breakthroughs are Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji, Su Xiaomo, Li Fei and Xian Qi. Speaking of which, Yi Xingchen and Zhao Han reached the king level, and there were only 2 of them among the disciples. Why was the initial value 3? Obviously, the extra one must be Lu Qian. That is to say, she, who was in Luzhao, northeast China, had entered the king level early. This is understandable. After all, with the Taixu and Bingxinju and the ice physique, she may not be inferior to Yi Xingchen in cultivation and comprehension. In the 2nd month, those geniuses from the academy who entered later also reached the peak martial arts level. So far, the number of tasks has also increased from 200 to 389. At this rate, the standard of 500 peak martial arts will be reached next month. Sure enough, in the 3rd month, the disciples entered the secret realm to practice one after another, and the number increased from 389 to more than 600. The deadline of half a year was completed in 3 months, and it was exceeded. It was undoubtedly very cool. Jun Changxiao also relied on time acceleration to offset the 1-year side effect limit in advance. The peak sword and martial arts double kings were restored, and the spiritual energy was infused into the meridians. The whole person was extremely happy. Master. Shangwen Ziniao walked in from outside and said a little tiredly, "Disciple has created many mental methods. Please give me some advice." Jun Changxiao had given her a task before, to create as many mental methods as possible, even if it was a half-finished product. How many? About 500 or 600. So many? Jun Changxiao stood up directly. Shangwen Ziniao said, "Disciple has not practiced much in the past 3 months. Even when entering the secret realm of time and space, I was still creating mental methods." Awesome, awesome. Jun Changxiao was full of admiration. Creating so many mental methods in such a short time, the understanding of martial arts is simply terrifying. The mental method developed by Shangwen Ziniao can only be regarded as a beginning, and the follow-up is not perfect, and even has no effect. Jun Changxiao used the insight talisman to turn decay into magic and repair it into a usable mental method. To be honest, the two of them cooperated perfectly, but whether it was the mental method or the martial arts, the level was not high, and there was no value in practice at all. What is the purpose of studying it? Of course, it is used to make up the number and exchange for the mental method. Swipe. Jun Changxiao opened the Gangfa pavilion. The number of 5-element giant Shenju has increased to more than 700, which is undoubtedly very close to 998. There are so many mental methods, some of which were studied by Shangwen Ziniao, and some were collected from the demon sect and the god-killing temple. Ziniao. Jun Changxiao encouraged, "Keep working hard, and strive to create hundreds of different mental methods next month." Yes. Shangwen Ziniao nodded. At first, Sect Master Jun was a little crazy about this woman, who was asking questions, but now he is afraid that she will melt if he holds her in his hands. Of course. Whether the powerful martial arts in the Gangfa pavilion can be exchanged in the fastest time depends on Shangwen Ziniao, the strongest brain. Sect Master. One day, Li Qingyang said, "The city Lord Mu of Xianyu King City is visiting. You are welcome." Not long after, Mu Changhang brought his daughter Mu Hanglian into the hall and said straight to the point, "Sect Master Jun, is your Wangdu sect still short of disciples? My daughter wants to become your disciple." Chapter 606 Sect Law. After Mu Changhang left the Eternal Sect, he had been waiting for Jun Changxiao to come to him, but he never made any move. No. He had to take the initiative. So he took Mu Hanglian to visit him. It wasn't that Sect Master Jun was being arrogant, but there were side effects before, and he had to develop the sect to complete the epic task. Even if he wanted to visit City Master Mu, it was difficult to find time. In the past few months, Mu Changhang has been investigating everything about Jun Changxiao, especially in terms of feelings. The result made him very satisfied. The little guy has been developing the sect and has no emotional scandals at all. That's a must. If there were paparazzi in the world, they would starve to death by secretly photographing Sect Master Jun's private life to expose the secrets. Of course, unscrupulous editors may use the title to attract attention, such as, "The leader of the top 3 sects still has no emotional space. Is it moral degradation, twisted personality, or is there another hidden story?" Mu Changhang loves one person all his life. Jun Changxiao is a promising rising star, but he has no emotional space, so he naturally wins a lot of favor. So he decided to send his daughter to this sect to practice. Is your Wangdu sect still lacking disciples? My daughter wants to become your disciple. The subtext of this sentence is, I need a son-in-law, and I want to marry my daughter to you. Jun Chang smiled and said, yes. Princess Hanglian's qualifications are beyond doubt, and she is a woman, which is just right to reconcile the trend of the sect's dominance of men and the decline of women. Even if there are hundreds of people, they will definitely accept them without hesitation. Hanglian. Mu Changhang smiled and said, why don't you join the sect leader quickly? Since sect leader Jun is a man who can do great things, let his daughter assist him, and the two of them will slowly establish a revolutionary friendship, and then won't it be a natural thing? City Lord Mu is very open-minded and will never care about the master-disciple relationship. In his opinion, men and women of similar age, as long as they are not relatives, have the right to love each other. Managing the city? I'm not old yet, and I can still do it. What's important is my daughter's happiness. Mu Hanglian knew her father's idea of letting her join sect leader Jun Sect, and saluted with a red face and said, "Disciple Mu Hanglian, see the sect leader." She had wanted to join the Wangu sect for a long time. But my father had not come out of retreat yet, and he still had to manage the city, so he had to delay it again and again. Now he finally got what he wanted. As for Mu Changhang's idea, Mu Hanglian would not take it to heart. She came to the Eternal Sect only to become stronger, not for a lifelong event. Ding. Ding. After filling in the admission form, Princess Hanglian became a disciple of the Eternal Sect. Master Jun, Mu Changhang said, "I will leave my precious daughter to you." When she said this, her emotions were a little difficult to control, and she almost couldn't help but shed tears. It is said that a daughter is a father's little cotton padded jacket. However, she will grow up and get married one day. Master Mu, your daughter just entered the Eternal Sect, not getting married, so don't be so sentimental. Mu Changhang did not leave, but talked with Jun Changxiao. The two talked about family matters and the general situation of the world. If they had a deeper conversation, they would talk about the origin of the universe. It's almost time. Dusk came, and Mu Changhang got up to say goodbye. Mu Hanglian, who had just been assigned a room, came to see her father off. Looking at the slightly weathered figure, she couldn't help but shout, "Father, daughter." Mu Changhang stopped and said, "Practice well in the Eternal Sect, and don't let your father down." Thousands of words could not express the complex emotions in her heart. Mu Hanglian could only say, "Yes." After a moment of silence, Mu Changhang left. Mu Hanglian began her cultivation journey in the Eternal Sect. When she first entered the sect, everything was so strange and mysterious. "Senior sister," Huoling said in a low voice, "when you come to the Eternal Sect, you must be careful of senior brotherly. His happy football is completely unreasonable. As a person who has experienced it, he has suffered greatly." Whoosh, sure enough, the happy football dragged a stream of light and burst out from the martial arts field. "Senior sister, be careful." Before he finished speaking, Huoling's eyes suddenly widened, because the target of the ball was not Mu Hanglian, but himself. Oh my god. He was so scared that he hurriedly ran away. But he didn't have time and caught the ball with his face, and then he hit the wall with a bang. Mu Hanglian stood there like a wooden chicken. The thing that just flew by didn't seem to be fast, but it seemed to contain some kind of power that made it impossible to dodge. This is the ultimate move of Li Fei, the golden right foot, 100% catching the ball with his face. Once this move is performed, except for the sect leader and a few disciples who can dodge, all others can do is to get ready to meet it. There is an unchanging rule in the Eternal Ancient Sect. All male disciples who join must go through 81 trials, but female disciples are given special care, so Mu Hanglian did not suffer any torture. In just a few days, she had a completely new understanding of the sect. Sect master. That day, she came to the main hall and said, "Can I practice that kind of fire martial arts?" She was talking about the Scarlet Sky Flame Slash. At that time, Jun Changxiao was in the academy and directly resolved the moves of a strong man in the academy, which made Princess Hanglian remember it vividly. That kind of martial arts is only suitable for men. That's a pity. Mu Hanglian's bright eyes showed a trace of frustration. But, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, the sect still has many good martial arts. You can learn them at will. Yuangsu, take her to the Gangfa Pavilion to choose. Yes, sect master. Ling Yuangsu took Mu Hanglian to the Gangfa Pavilion. The latter entered and saw the dazzling array of martial arts on the shelves and was surprised. So many martial arts? Junior sister. These are all martial arts from outside. The sect master said that they are just for filling the numbers, and there is no need to practice them. If our disciples want to learn, they must learn unique martial arts. Ling Yuangsu said, pointing to a shelf somewhere, and said, "These are all unique martial arts of our Wangu sect. You can choose any to practice." Oh. Mu Hanglian came over and picked up the I/secret book. Seeing the moves recorded in it, she was immediately deeply immersed in it. Is not of high level, but as a spiritual power-based martial art, its advantages, that it consumes very little, which shocked her very much. Then, Mu Hanglian flipped through the explosive fist, the mountain opening palm, and the spiritual armor and other martial arts one after another, and the shock in her bright eyes became stronger and stronger. Especially the 7 mysterious clouds break. The formula and operation method of this martial art are different from the Starfall continent. It is really too profound. Closing the secret book, Mu Hanglian couldn't calm down for a long time and murmured, "No wonder senior brother is so strong. These martial arts are all very superior." Junior sister, Ling Yuangsu walked in and said, "These are the body shaping pills and the soul tempering pills. I got them out for you." Body shaping pills. Mu Hanglian was quite surprised and said, "Is it the kind of pill sold by the AI family in Huayang City?" She had heard of this kind of pill, but she never took it seriously. She even thought that, even if it had miraculous effects, it was only suitable for low-level disciples. "Yes," Ling Yuangsu said, "in our sect, all new disciples have to take it." Mu Hanglian was stunned. This kind of expensive pill, which must be taken by beginners, means that there are a lot of it in the sect. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607. This is the swordsman. In the wing room, Mu Hanglian stood there blankly. She took the body shaping pill and the soul tempering pill, which strengthened her physical strength and spiritual power. Her mood could not be described in words. It turned out that the pills sold in Huayang City were so magical that, even if she had reached the level of Wu Zhang, she could be greatly improved after taking them. There was also the soul tempering pill. This kind of pill was not sold by the AI family, so how could the Wangu sect have it? Could it be that there was a master of alchemy? Father. Mu Hanglian gradually calmed down and murmured, "I seem to have come too late." "Not too late, not too late. It's just right to join the Wangu sect at this time." There were many things that shocked Mu Hanglian, because she had not experienced the various facilities for improving martial arts. As a princess, she was destined to be in a state of shock for a long time. In the past 3 months, many peak Wuzan disciples of the Wangu sect have appeared, and the inner disciples who entered later, such as Long Xiang, have also broken through to the level of Wu Wang one after another. The number of king-level disciples in the epic task has increased to 22. There are 21 inner disciples. How can there be one more? That's right. The closed disciple He Wudi also broke through to the martial king, and the speed was amazing. After relying on the dazzling sunglasses, Master Jun spied on his true strength and wanted to take a scalpel and dissect him on the spot to see how this guy's body was constructed. The system said, "Host, dissect yourself first." He Wuda's fast upgrade is based on the super divine spiritual roots. Master Jun went from a low grade to the current 9th grade sword and martial arts double king, which is the most shocking cheat. Who? On this day, a heavy momentum suddenly emerged in the cafeteria. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Is someone going to break through?" The spiritual thoughts spread and instantly locked onto Ma Yangming. He was closing his eyes at the moment, and his hands were still instinctively washing the dishes, and the heavy momentum was still spreading wildly. Yi Xingchen felt the breath and said, "King of Knives?" Zhao Han raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. The King of Knives and him, the King of Swords, are simply natural enemies. Now that Ma Yangning has signs of a breakthrough, he immediately rises to the desire to fight. "Wow. Liu Wan," she said in surprise, "Uncle Ma is about to break through." At this moment, a heavier momentum spread from the cafeteria. Ma Yangning opened his eyes, and the whole person seemed to have become more vicissitudes than before. Zhao Han also had this feeling. Sure enough, the unusual existence of the Sword King and the Knife King would only feel stylish if they looked more vicissitudes and older. "Knife!" Ma Yangning shouted loudly. Whoosh! The kitchen knife on the chopping board flew out and was caught in his hand. This was the knife that was cut off by Jun Changxiao that year. Later, he changed it into a kitchen knife just to help Liu while she cut vegetables every day. It is sad that the swordsman has become a cook. However, Ma Yangning did not forget his original intention. Instead, he gradually understood the mysteries of the knife while cutting the mound. His cultivation did not decline but increased, and he was able to successfully enter the realm of the Knife King. This is the swordsman. Like the swordsman, what he pursues is not to practice step by step, but to pay attention to enlightenment. If you understand, you will have it. If you don't understand, you will always stay in the same place. Swish. Ma Yangning jumped up, the kitchen knife in his hand flashed, and a heavy knife aura was seen slashing down. If you slow down his knife swinging movement by dozens of times, you can see that this is completely the action of cutting vegetables. Knife King. Proving the truth with a knife. Ma Yangning can reach this level, all because of his understanding of cutting vegetables, so please call him the Kitchen Knife King. Boom. Boom. The knife aura fell down with a bang, and deep knife marks appeared on the martial arts field. The heavy momentum permeated, making all the disciples in the distance stand in awe. The swordsman, the sharp edge, the knifeman, the momentum is heavy. Step. Ma Yangning fell down gracefully, and the kitchen knife in his hand rotated between his thumbs and almost cut off the other 4 fingers before inserting it into the scabbard at his waist. In one word, handsome. Good. Jun Changxiao walked out of the hall and applauded. Clap, clap, clap. The disciples also followed suit and applauded. But Jun Changxiao pointed at the martial arts arena and said, breaking so many floors, 3 months of martial arts resources will be deducted. Plop. Ma Yangning collapsed to the ground. What the hell am I doing here pretending to be so awesome? What the hell? Ma Yangning broke through to the Sword King, and there are already 23 people at the king level in the epic mission, which Jun Changxiao did not expect. However, he was worried about the next thing. The inner disciples with good talents have all broken through to the Martial King, who will fill the next 27 positions. In fact, Li Shangshan and other outer disciples have also reached the peak of the Martial Sect, but due to their qualifications, it will take a lot of time to break through to the Martial King. There are still a lot of top grade qualification transformation liquids awarded, so let's give them to the outer disciples first. Sect Master Jun took out all the qualification liquid. As for how much, the author did not count. Anyway, it was a lot. For outer disciples like Li Shangshan and Simazanda, the appearance rate was okay, but the qualifications were not outstanding. To transform them, they had to start with the upper grade qualifications. Sect Master Jun spent another 2000 contribution points to buy 40 bottles of upper grade qualifications and upgraded them all to the best. Thank you, Sect Master. Li Shangshan, Lin Jianghang and others were very excited, and they also had greater confidence in the impact of the King of Martial Arts. Old Wendy. Jun Changxiao came to the medicine garden and asked, when will that batch of medicinal materials mature? It will probably take more than 2 months. Old Wendy said, in time. Improving qualifications may not necessarily promote the King of Martial Arts in a short time, so the martial arts master pill must be refined faster, so that the target can be reached within half a year. It is not difficult for disciples to improve, the most difficult is the elders. He asked Jiangzi and the Ning brothers again, and the answer he got was that they were all upgraded to the 3rd grade on their original realm. Tens of thousands of natural spirit stones are supplied. If this can't be piled up, then there's really no hope. In half a year, I should be able to complete Epic Mission 5. Jun Changxiao was full of confidence. Of course. Just completing it is definitely not the goal. It must be completed in excess and get more awards. After completing it, I can enter the Emperor level, right? Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands, and the next second he suddenly remembered something, and said in surprise, there is still a Liu. Even if Shiwu is completed, I may not be able to improve the realm. Smart man. The system said. Damn it. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, isn't this WOK pitfall? The system said, the epic missions give rich rewards. If the host completes all of them, it will definitely make a profit. Jun Changxiao was silent. That's what he said, but 2 epic missions are equivalent to creating 2 obstacles in breaking through the realm, and the difficulty value is definitely much higher than a single one. This is still the king level. In the future, when you reach the peak level of the Emperor level, won't it still be 2? Jun Changxiao said helplessly, if I had known earlier, I would have taken a single route and not played the sword and martial arts dual cultivation. Another month passed. There are more than 800 peak martial arts disciples in the Wangu sect. Only Zhang Yi and Jing Wuji had broken through to the king level, and the number has increased to 25. There are still 2 months. It should be possible. Jun Changxiao murmured. Shangwen Ziniao walked into the hall, put a pile of researched mental methods on the table, and said, Master, I have studied hundreds of them. Please give me some advice. Okay. Jun Changxiao hurriedly crushed the insight talisman, and then spent a whole day to improve all the semi-finished mental methods, and then opened the Gangfa pavilion. The number of 5-element Jianshanju was 1090/988, and the exchange button also lit up. Ding. Consumed 998 secret books, successfully exchanged for 5-element Jianshanju X1, and has been transferred to the space ring. After purchasing this mental method secret book, the system automatically matched it to the sect's martial arts, and Master Jun did not hesitate to directly copy 10,000 copies. King Guiyang. Here. Tomorrow morning, don't leave after doing morning exercises. I have something to say. Yes. Chapter 608 My Sweetheart. The next day, after the routine morning exercises, Jun Changxiao distributed the secret book of the 5-element Jianshanju to the disciples in public. In fact, they can also be equipped with martial arts machines to receive them by themselves, but this is more solemn. There are 5 chapters in the 5-element Jianshanju, namely gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Disciples can choose one of them according to their preferences, and they can also practice more. As long as they are awesome, it is no problem to practice all 5-element. This mental method, Yi Xingchen said in disbelief, it actually includes the 5-element. There are countless martial arts in the Xinjiang continent. Yi Di has practiced a lot, but most of them are related to the 5-element. The powerful ones like Bing Huo Shuangshan only merge the water and fire systems. I have never seen a mental method that has all 5-element. Continue reading. Yi Xingchen's shock became stronger and stronger. Although he has not started practicing yet, his intuition tells him that the level of this mental method is not inferior to his own Taixu and Sutra. That's right. The level of the 5-element Jianshanju is above the divine level. In terms of level, it is higher than Taixu and Sutra, but the premise is to practice the 5-element to perfection. To shape the body, there is Yijinjing. To stabilize the mind, there is Qingxinju. Today's 5-element Jianshanju fills the gap in the sect's disciples' perception of the attributes of heaven and earth. Yi Xingchen said calmly, such a powerful mental method, why didn't he take it out earlier for the disciples to practice? In another wing room, He Wudi was also reading the 5-element Jianshanju, and his shock could not be described in words. He knew better than Yi Xingchen that this kind of practice containing the 5-element was extremely rare even in his world, and it was definitely a superb mental method. It must be left by senior Kixu and Shengzhen. He Wudi exclaimed. Although Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others also felt that the 5-element Jianshanju was very strong, they were not so shocked, but began to practice. What system should I practice? I still need to consider it. I must practice the fire system or the gold system first. After making a choice, many disciples mostly chose the attributes that best showed their combat effectiveness among the 5-element. Of course, female disciples mainly practice wood and water. Before Mu Hanglian began to accept the various martial arts facilities of the sect, she first obtained the 5-element Jianshanju. As a result, she was stunned in the wing room for a long time before she came back to her senses. She was very frustrated that she could not practice the red sky flame slash, but this kind of mental method that includes the fire system is definitely dozens of times stronger than the mental method she practiced. Not too late, not too late. The outer disciples made their choices one after another, and most of them practiced alone. The inner disciples are more confident and have higher qualifications, so they are more inclined to practice more. For example, Xiao Zuji chose the 3 types of earth, fire and gold to optimize his own defense and attack power. Li Qingyang, Su Xiaomo and others are the same. The most sturdy ones have to be Yijing and He. The idea of the two is to practice all. Of course, this will be very time consuming. But if all the cultivation is successful, the 5-element cycle, endless life, the benefits brought are absolutely immeasurable. Jun Changxiao sat in the study, carefully studying the 5-element heaven-seeking art, and said, "Don't think about it, I will definitely practice all of them." Not only did he want to practice all of them himself, he also ordered his disciples to move towards the path of practicing all of them in the future, even if they were practicing one of them now. The 5-element heaven-seeking art is a kind of 5-element mental method. If you want to make a breakthrough, practicing all of them is the only way. Given time, the disciples of the eternal ancient sect will comprehend all the mental methods and achieve the great perfection of the 5-element. The picture is so beautiful that it is unimaginable. Half a month later, many disciples in the martial arts field either gathered flames in their hands or flashed with extremely sharp golden light. The 5-element heaven-seeking art is easy to learn. Even people with low qualifications can comprehend it in a short time and transform the attributes in their bodies to possess a certain 5-element energy. Similarly, if you want to master it, you need time to comprehend it. Suzuomo flew into the air, stretched out her hands, and the hot flames suddenly whistled out and gathered into a cutting seal, which suddenly blasted into the void. The one being performed was the Scarlet Sky Blazing Slash. With the blessing of the fire system, the power was obviously stronger than before. Li Fei scratched his head and said, "Brother Su, how about we have a fight?" "Hey." Suzuomo said, "You're getting bold, aren't you?" "Brother Su, accept the challenge." "Brother Su, accept the challenge." Many disciples followed suit. "Okay." Suzuomo grinned and said, "Then let's have a fight." Swish. The fellow disciples gave way one after another, leaving the huge martial arts arena empty. Suzuomo and Li Fei walked in, then each performed the cloud-resisting step, released the flames, and launched the most fierce attack. Crimson Sky Blazing Slash. Crimson Sky Blazing Slash. As the two wondered, they tacitly performed the same martial arts at the first time, and only saw the two flame battles, gathering in the air, carrying the scorching power to meet each other. Boom! Exclamation mark. The flames splashed, and the heat was overwhelming. Bang! Stare! Stare! Suzuomo and Li Fei each retreated 7 or 8 steps. From this fight, it seemed that the two did not win or lose. But, at this moment, a green light suddenly appeared under his feet, and then he saw vines appearing. Not good. Li Fei was shocked and hurried to get up, but the vines spread too fast and instantly entangled his legs. Suzuomo flew up, and the hot flames gathered to form a slashing seal and blasted down. However, when it was about to hit Li Fei, it suddenly collapsed, and the vines under his feet also evaporated. "Junior brother." Suzuomo landed and smiled. "Are you convinced?" Li Fei scratched his head and said, "I didn't expect that senior brother would use the power of wood. This is what junior brother didn't expect." So, Suzuomo said, "You are still a little naive." Practicing the 5-element Jianshanju, the disciples of the eternal ancient sect have all become some kind of 5-element martial artists. This is only secondary. What really benefits them more is practice and comprehension. Yijing came from behind, relying on the Taixu and Sutra. The 5-element Jianshanju is not inferior to the former in terms of level, and naturally it can also bring huge benefits to the disciples. Another half a month passed. Many disciples entered the secret realm of time and space to practice, and their understanding of the mind method was deeper. The speed of improvement was really terrifying. "Master," Li Qingyang said, "after this practice, there are 1,500 fellow disciples who have reached the peak of martial arts." Jun Changxiao widened his eyes. In the past, the growth rate was about 200 per month. After the accelerated practice this time, it actually increased from more than 800 to 1,500. This is definitely several times the growth rate. Li Qingyang said, "Many fellow disciples are also much faster than before in breaking through the small realm level." Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, "It seems that the martial arts introduction in the Gangfa Pavilion is really not an exaggeration. It is really powerful." Practicing the 5-element Jianshanju, the disciples have improved quickly. But this month, no disciples have broken through to the king of martial arts. The mind method has just been successfully cultivated and has not been thoroughly understood. It is still a bit unrealistic to expect to benefit from breaking through the big realm immediately. Only 1 month. Jun Changxiao said, the medicinal materials should be ripe soon. A few days later, Elder Wei entered the hall and said, Master, the herbs are ripe. Hurry up and bring them here. Jun Changxiao put all the herbs into the space ring and opened the medicine cabinet. A smile suddenly appeared on his face, because after the herbs of the Wu Wangdan were automatically matched, the number that could be refined was 70. This is 70 Wu Wangs. Pull it to the maximum refining. Ding. 4 hours later, the first Wu Wangdan was refined. It was a very round pill that did not need to be polished. It exuded a faint power, which made people know it was extraordinary at a glance. My darling little baby. Jun Changxiao held the Wu Wangdan and said, whether you can complete the epic task depends entirely on you. Don't let me down. Chapter 609. Collective Breakthrough. Huge momentum. Hoo-hoo. Suddenly, without any warning, a majestic king-level aura emerged in the hall, startling the disciples who were practicing outside and turning their heads to look. It seems that there are only the sect master and Li Hall master inside. Now there is a breakthrough. Could it be that Li Hall master wants to break through to the martial king? Li Hall master comes to report to the sect master almost every day. It is a coincidence that he has broken through now. Everyone discussed. However, this is not a coincidence, but intentional. The martial king pill was refined, and Jun Changxiao needed to find someone to test it, so he thought of Li Luoqiu. This woman was busy with the affairs of the sect every day, but she did not fall behind in her practice and reached the peak of the martial sect early. Hoo-hoo. The aura lasted for a while and then quickly retreated. The disciples had witnessed the breakthrough of Li Qingyang and others and naturally understood that this was a successful breakthrough to the martial king. Amazing, amazing. In the hall, Li Luoqiu's bright eyes were filled with disbelief. At this moment, her cultivation had reached the martial king, and the process of breaking through was extremely simple. As a routine report on the recent situation in the martial arts world, the sect master gave her a pill. After taking it, she broke through to the martial king. This made her feel like she was dreaming. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao grinned. The martial king pill has the side effect of reducing lifespan, but it can quickly promote to the martial king, which is nothing. And for a martial artist like Li Luoqiu, if he doesn't have various resources to accumulate, he can only reach the peak of the martial sect in his lifetime. Taking the martial king pill certainly consumes lifespan, but the substantial increase in lifespan after the breakthrough can not only offset it, but also extend it a lot. Of course, the peak martial sect who is about to die cannot use the martial king pill. Because the lifespan is limited, taking it will reduce the lifespan by another 100 years, and he will definitely die. The Wangdu sect is very young and full of vitality. Therefore, this side effect is nothing to the disciples. Ding, ding, ding. In the next few days, a large number of martial king pills were refined. After collecting enough, Jun Changxiao said loudly, King Guiyang, call Li Shangshan and the others over. Yes. After a while, Li Shangshan, Cui Bujian, Sima Zongda, Lin Jianghang, Hu Oling, Chu Xiunan and other disciples walked into the hall, with a total of 30 people. Jun Changxiao distributed the pills and said, go to the martial arts arena and take them. Yes. Li Shangshan and others shouted. Chu Xiunan wondered in his heart, what kind of pill is this? Brother Chu. Hu Oling sat cross-legged on the martial arts arena and whispered, the pill given by the sect master must be powerful, so you should take it quickly. Yes. Chu Xiunan swallowed the pill. The Wu Wang pill melted in the mouth, and then turned into surging energy that instantly spread in the body. This. Li Shangshan and others changed their faces. At this moment, their bodies were filled with majestic energy, and the spiritual energy in the spiritual core was transforming crazily. Don't mention how cool it felt. Whoosh, whoosh, in an instant, the entire martial arts arena was shrouded in majestic momentum, and the scene was extremely shocking. Oh my god. Brothers, you want to break through together. They are all peak martial sects, so if they want to break through, they must break through to the level of martial king. The disciples of the Wangu sect widened their eyes. Even Ni Xingchen, who had just returned from training in the backyard, stood there dumbfounded. Collective breakthroughs have been staged in the sect, but this kind of sitting in the martial arts arena and gathering a magnificent momentum for advancement is definitely the first time. Moreover, the breakthrough level is not a martial arts apprentice or martial arts master, but the king of martial arts. Ziguangcan, who was checking the city defense in Qingyang City, looked up at the direction of Tigu Mountain and saw vast spiritual energy in the sky, gathering a spectacular picture. Master, look. AI family. AI Shank looked up and said in surprise. AI Shangni, AI Shangfang and other family leaders walked out one after another, watching the majestic power gathering in the sky above Tigu Mountain, and their mouths gradually opened. Li Shangshan and 30 other disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect broke through while sitting in the martial arts arena. The noise they made was so loud that the 8 cities in Qingyang County could clearly see it and were deeply shocked. The Kangshan sect in the distance, Ma Yunteng, Wang Donglin and others were also watching, their eyes flickering with horror. The gathering of momentum above Tigu Mountain must mean that someone is about to break through to the Martial King, but why is it so strong? Could it be that the person who broke through is unusual? That's not the case. The main reason is that there are too many people. On this day, there seemed to be a natural phenomenon above Tigu Mountain, which was widely discussed by the martial artists in Qingyang County. On this day, in the martial arts arena of the Eternal Ancient Sect, Li Shangshan, Hu Oling and 30 other disciples broke through to the Martial King at the same time. A sect that has so many people breaking through to the Martial King at the same time can definitely apply for a Guinness record. Ding. Ding. After Li Shangshan and his group broke through collectively, Jun Changxiao heard a series of reminders in his ears, and the number of king-level people required for the epic task was also increased from 25 to 55 in one fell swoop. Although Li Luoqiu also reached King Wu, his position was Hall Master, so he was not among the disciples, otherwise there would be 56 of them. Perfect. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Wu Wangdan can still be refined, and more disciples can break through to Wu Wang in the future, which is definitely higher than 50. But, the elders' values are still 0/1. The great realm can be raised by Wu Wangdan, but the small level of Wu Wang can only rely on themselves. A few days passed. The remaining 39 Wu Wangdan were refined. Jun Changxiao distributed them to the outer disciples in the order of entry, and asked them to break through to Wu Wang. Here it comes again. Who is breaking through in the Wangu sect? Why is there such a big commotion every now and then? Every time the disciples break through collectively and form a vast momentum, they stir up the minds of the Qingyang County martial artists and make them collapse. So, how strong is the Wangu sect now? Including Jun Changxiao, the elders, hall masters and disciples, there are a total of 99 Wu Wangs. There are still more than 1,000 disciples at the peak Wuzang level, and there are countless Wuzangs at the 6th and 7th levels. I want to find a martial artist in the Wangu sect. Sorry, there is no one. In the past few months, the disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect have entered the secret realm of space and time, with the training tower and the spirit refining pill, to refine their spiritual energy. As long as they reach the peak of the martial master level, it will be easy to break through to the martial master level. Some people may ask, what about the little loli Yao Mangying? After practicing the Blood Cloud Sky Residual Sutra, she had already broken through to the martial master level. Her speed was so fast that she was probably only weaker than Hiwudi in the sect. A sect that has just been promoted cannot find a single martial master among its disciples. If this gets out, it will definitely cause a huge sensation. Potential top 3. To be honest, the certification hall needs to change the rules and expand to the top 4, top 5, or simply add a super A to the Eternal Ancient Sect. The most exciting thing is that after the disciples' strength has increased, they all practiced the art of seclusion and usually keep their realm at the martial master level. This is called being low-key. It is also called playing the pig to eat the tiger. Who knows, one day, some blind forces may think that the Eternal Ancient Sect is easy to bully and bring people to kill them, but the disciples all burst out with a cultivation of martial master or martial king, which will definitely scare them to death. 10 days later. Ding. The reminder sounded again. The Elder's value on the epic mission finally became 1/1, which fully met the completion requirements. Who broke through? Ningduzu broke through to the peak Martial King first. However, the 5th mission of the history has a fixed time. If it does not reach half a year, it will not be completed actively, even if it meets the requirements. Ding. A few days later, Ning Duxing also relied on the Spirit Stone to successfully break through to the peak Martial King, and the value became 2/1. Jun Changxiao grinned and said, peak Martial Sect, King level, peak Martial King, all exceeded the minimum value, and the rewards after completion must be very rich. Time continues to move. On the last day of the mission overall settlement, the last hour, our Elder Jiang finally lived up to everyone's expectations, and broke through to the peak Martial King with natural spirit stones. The details of the epic mission 5 are opened. Mission details. Within half a year, the sect disciples break through to the peak Martial Sect. 2100/500, the king level. 95/50, and the elders break through to the peak Martial King. 3/1. On the roof of the hall, Jun Changxiao, wearing sunglasses and holding a cigar, murmured, "Come on, my reward." Chapter 610 Holy Flame Body. Time passed slowly, and after an hour, Epic Mission 5 began to enter the coordinated settlement state. After waiting for a few minutes, there was no movement. Jun Changxiao couldn't help asking, "Why haven't you given me the reward yet?" "Don't worry," the system said, "it's in the settlement state." "Okay." Jun Changxiao continued to wait, and after waiting for another 10 minutes, there was still no movement, so he began to get restless. After half a year of hard work and struggle, the task required to do the best possible, just waiting to receive the reward, but no one said anything for a long time. What's the difference between this and Duanzhanggaoden? One day, I will have a knife in my hand and slash the 19th street of Jianghu. Ding. Just when Jun Changxiao was so anxious that his butt was about to catch fire, a crisp reminder sound came, like a sound from the sky, stirring the deep soul. Here it comes. My reward. Jun Changxiao stood up, stepped on the roof and posed. Ding. The host sect disciple realm has reached the requirements and meets the defined conditions. The epic mission is completed with a completion rate of 200%. The host obtains 20,000 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution value 22,991/20,000 point. Ding. Contribution value overflow 20,000 contribution points reward. Cool. Super cool. Calm down. This has just begun. With such a high degree of completion, the rewards must be rich. Sacred Qualification Transformation Fluid, Sword Formation Transformation Fluid, High Quality Leaderable, Experience Talisman, Medicine. Check. All in a few sets. Jun Changxiao improvised rap, shaking his head, dancing, very skr. Ding. It is detected that the host has Epic Mission 6. The rewards for Epic Mission 5 will be distributed uniformly after the completion of Epic Mission 6. Medicine. Sect Master Jun's body was stiff, and the posture of his hands always stayed on 6. What the hell is unified distribution? The system added, after the host completes SLIU, the rewards for the two tasks will be issued together. Plop. Jun Changxiao fell directly from the hall. Oh no. The master fell down. Quick. Quick. Carry him to the medicine hall for rescue. The 5th epic task was completed with a completion rate of 200%, and the reward was 20,000 contribution points, which was very high, but the reward was suppressed, which made Jun Changxiao want to cry without tears. What's more frustrating is that it has to be issued together with SLIU. If you want to get the reward you deserve, you have to wait at least for nearly a year. It's a rip-off. Jun Changxiao couldn't complain, so he could only quietly open them all and spend the extra contribution points. With about 22,000 contribution points in hand, Liang Jingru gave him the courage to directly click on the high-level mall. Although Jun Changxiao is now a peak sword and martial arts king, he is still far behind the half-step martial saint, and he must try his best to make himself have stronger capital. Relying on improving the realm can only narrow the gap between each other, but cannot achieve the quality, so the products in the high-level mall play a decisive role. Continue to buy the Kyankan talisman? Impossible. After all, it is just a disposable consumer product, and the power it brings is only temporary. If you want to buy it, buy a permanent improvement. For example, the product called Holy Flame Body in the first row. When I saw the price of 10,000 contribution points before, Jun Changxiao was so scared that he hurriedly took it back and didn't have the courage to read it. Now he clicked on the details without hesitation. Item: Holy Flame Body. Introduction: the strongest flame physique in the mortal world. Function: the user can shape the holy flame body in a short time and control 3 kinds of divine fire seeds and 10 kinds of holy fire seeds. Advantages: after achieving the holy flame body, it will be twice as effective with half the effort when comprehending the fire related exercises, and the power and intensity of the fire related martial arts will also increase by 50%. Disadvantages: none. Price: 10,000 contribution points. The strongest flame physique in the mortal world. It is shaped, and it can also control 3 kinds of divine fire and 10 kinds of holy fire. Jun Changxiao said with a fiery look, very strong. Calm down, calm down. There are still many good things, don't rush to buy them. Jun Changxiao suppressed his hot mood and browsed other products again. For example, the 9-turn marrow cleansing pill is even more awesome. After taking it, it can not only instantly upgrade the spiritual roots to the divine level, but also reshape the flesh and blood and meridians. It can be said to be a real marrow cleansing and bone cutting. This is a real elixir. After taking it, the waste material can immediately counter-attack like the protagonist. Jun Changxiao was amazed. Then, he looked at the dragon elephant prajna palm. The introduction said that, if you practice it successfully, you can temper your strength into the power of dragons and elephants, and even when you perform it, you can gather the dragon elephant dharma, which is a very terrifying palm method. Jun Changxiao began to imagine that after learning it, he would gather the power of thousands of dragons and elephants with a wave of his hand. The opponent's reaction must be counting how many heads there are. Of course, there are also some things in the high-level mall that are not very useful. For example, the 5-element yin yang art has similar functions to the 5-element heaven detective art, so it is not worth buying. Jun Changxiao browsed for a while and decided to choose between the Holy Flame Body and the 9 Revolutions Marrow Cleansing Pill. After all, both items are real qualifications and will help long-term development in the future. I'm now Holy Spiritual Root, only one step away from a Divine Spiritual Root. My flesh and blood and meridians have also been tempered to the extreme. It seems a bit wasteful to buy the 9 Revolutions Marrow Cleansing Pill. So, ding. The host consumes 10,000 contribution points and obtains 1 Holy Flame Body, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value: 12,991/20,000 point. A cluster of flames appeared in the space ring, suspended in the air and exuding a scorching heat. This is the Holy Flame Body. Jun Changxiao stood in front of him in the form of a soul, gently raised his hand, and his fingers touched the flames lightly, but he didn't feel the heat. Whoosh! At this moment, the Holy Flame Body suddenly split into wisps of flames, lingering around his arms and flying up, and then merged into his mouth and nose. In an instant, a stream of hot and violent flames erupted in his body, making Jun Changxiao's face suddenly become hideous. Ah! A scream came. What's going on? It's the voice of the sect master. Something happened. Swish, swish, swish. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others rushed into the hall as quickly as possible, but they all widened their eyes. At this moment, Jun Changxiao had fallen off his chair, half squatting on the ground with his head in his hands in pain. His exposed skin became like a red-hot iron block. Master! The disciples exclaimed. Zen Leo walked in and frowned. Evil fire entered the body? Wei Leo arrived later and saw Jun Changxiao's body was red and crying abnormally. He said solemnly, the eldest disciple is not here, otherwise with her ice attribute, she should be able to suppress the evil fire in the master's body. Li Qingyang and Xiao Zuji were about to step forward. Don't go. Wei Leo hurriedly stopped them and said, the power of the evil fire is terrifying. You will be burned if you get close. What should we do? Or, go contact the eldest sister. She is still in Luzhou in the northeast. It's too late. The disciples were immediately in chaos. Old Wendy, who had experienced many battles, remained calm in the face of danger and said, "Hurry up and call all the disciples who practiced the water system." Yes. After a while, hundreds of disciples who relied on the 5-element Jianshan to comprehend the water system came to the hall and burst out the power of the water system together, forming a wave and rolling towards the chairman. Hiss hiss hiss. However, the water system's spiritual energy was evaporated in an instant when it approached a range of 10 feet, and it was impossible to penetrate the interior, let alone cool down Jun Changxiao. Old Wendy frowned and said, "What kind of powerful evil fire is this?" Old Wendy. Li Qingyang said anxiously, "What should I do?" Swish. At this moment, a flame rushed out from the outside, and standing in front of Jun Changxiao, it was Xia Long who had been sleeping all the time. "Master." It quickly transformed into a human form, and pounced on him, saying, "I'm here to save you." PS. The fourth update. Although I didn't maintain my position in the top 5 this week, I still reached the top 10, which is a new high. Thank you all for your recommendations, and thank you to Q Redding and Kidian readers for your awards. Chapter 611 Physical Man. The sleeping Xia Long seemed to realize that Jun Changxiao was in trouble. He rushed from the study to the main hall, activated his human form, and pounced on him without hesitation. He planned to use his body to share the great pain brought by the flames for his master. This kind of emotion makes people cry. However, just as Xia Long pounced on him, his originally resolute face suddenly turned into uncontrollable ecstasy. The fire element of the master is too strong. Sharing it for him will definitely improve his strength a lot. Pa. Xia Long hugged Jun Changxiao directly. Dry, numb, not round at all. Pan him. Hoo-hoo. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao erupted with hot flames all over his body, instantly covering himself and Xia Long. This. Elder Wei and Elder Zen widened their eyes, because the suddenly rising hot flames were not red, but a deep blue similar to the sea. Heavenly spirit blue flame. Zendejin exclaimed, "Divine great flame." Hoo-hoo. At this moment, the flames that permeated Jun Changxiao's body suddenly retreated, and then a purple flame rose again. This is. Elder Wei couldn't stay calm and said, "Purple mysterious holy fire." Whoosh. As soon as the voice fell, the color of the flames that permeated changed again, and finally turned into the color of normal flames, but the temperature also rose instantly, and the whole hall seemed to be about to be ignited. Elder Wei and Elder Zen couldn't tell what kind of flame this was, but combined with the continuous changes just now, and the 2 divine flames that appeared, they could be sure that this was definitely not ordinary. Red Star Absolute Flame. Mu Honglian, who had been silent all the time, spoke up, with shock in her bright eyes. The Heavenly Spirit Blue Flame, the Purple Mysterious Holy Fire, and the Red Star Absolute Flame are all recognized as the strongest divine flames in the Xinjiang continent. Now that they have appeared one after another around the master, the shock brought is self-evident. No wonder he is so painful. Ordinary people who endure the steaming and baking of 3 kinds of divine flames would have been burned to nothingness at this moment. Hoo-hoo. The flames around Jun Changxiao began to change again, and in a short time, they changed into 10 kinds, each with different colors and different heats. Mu Honglian opened her mouth and said in disbelief, "All flames are of the holy level. 3 kinds of divine products. 10 kinds of holy products." Now they are emerging one by one around Jun Changxiao, all of which show that he is undergoing the transformation of the holy flame body. The process is very painful. Every minute and every second is like being in hell, enduring endless torment. If it weren't for the reader's feelings, I could torture Jun Zhangsu for 3 chapters, and I guarantee that he would be in agony and linger for the rest of his life. In the hall, screams were heard like a pig being slaughtered. Wei Lao and others could only watch. At this moment, they were helpless and could only pray in their hearts that the Zhangsu could turn the danger into safety. The torture of these 13 kinds of flames lasted for a full hour. Jun Changxiao screamed at first, then slowly groaned and moaned weakly, which showed that he was being played with. Old Wendy, the sect master, can't hold on any longer. Li Qingyang clenched his fists and said, "Woo woo woo." Liu Wanshi wiped her tears and said, "Sect master, you must not be in trouble." Xiao Zuji and others also had painful faces. At this moment, the scorching temperature covering the hall suddenly dropped sharply, and the constantly changing flames began to converge. The first thing that appeared in the field of vision was Xiao Longlong, who was now red all over, and bursts of heat erupted from his breath. In the process of gathering the holy flame body, Jun Changxiao was inevitably enveloped and endured the burning and destruction from the 13 kinds of flames. Although the process was painful, however, the pain was also happy. After experiencing the tempering of the 13 kinds of flames, Xiao Longlong felt that his body and meridians, and even his control over the flames, had greatly improved. Ha ha ha. It laughed out loud. Li Qingyang and others twitched at the corners of their mouths. We are sad, but you are smiling so happily. Don't you worry about your master at all? Swish. Xiao Longlong spread his arms and took a few steps back. Gradually, Jun Changxiao appeared in the field of vision. He was half squatting on the ground, covering his face with one hand. His body was shaking violently, as if he had not yet come out of the endless burning pain. Zang. Ahahaha. Li Qingyang just opened his mouth when he heard Jun Changxiao suddenly look up and laugh. It's over. Liu Wan, she said nervously, the sect master's head is burned. Swish. Jun Changxiao suddenly started and rushed out of the hall. He brushed past Li Qingyang and others, and immediately brought a wave of heat. The people who were disturbing him hurriedly gathered their spiritual energy, and were able to barely resist. Swish. Swish. They hurriedly chased out, and saw the sect master standing on the martial arts field, his black hair flying in the wind, and the magic hairspray lost its effect under the burning of the hot flames just now. Whoosh whoosh. Jun Changxiao raised his hand, his 5 fingers grasping, and a ball of deep blue flame gathered in it, as if it came from a ghost in the deep sea, exuding a strange and unpredictable breath. This is the blue flame of the sky spirit. Swish. Suddenly, the flame between his palms changed to purple. This is the purple mysterious holy fire. Swish. The flame then transformed into the red star absolute flame. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately afterwards, the other 10 kinds of holy flames continued to transform between Jun Changxiao's palms, presenting brilliant colors. Elder Wei suddenly realized something and exclaimed, "Holy flame body. This is the holy flame body." Elder Zen said solemnly, 3 kinds of divine flames, 10 kinds of holy flames, are indeed the same as the strongest fire body in the record. Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others were overjoyed. They were not happy that the sect leader had condensed the strongest flame body, but they were happy that he was fine. The most shocked was Mu Honglian. When Jun Changxiao released the flames she controlled one by one, the flames in her body were also stirring, as if being pulled and disturbed. Daughter, although the fire spirit body ranks 9th among the fire constitutions, it is a world of difference compared to the holy flame body. The words her father said back then lingered in her ears. Now that she had seen the holy flame body with her own eyes, Mu Honglian truly understood the meaning of a world of difference. Whoosh. In the martial arts arena, Jun Changxiao was still releasing flames to his heart's content. With the exquisite fire, he can only be regarded as a relatively good fire type martial artist. Now he controls 3 kinds of divine flames, 10 kinds of holy flames, and condenses the body of holy flames. He is definitely the best fire type martial artist in the Xingyan continent. Whoosh. The hot flames roared out and instantly condensed the slash seal in the air and then blasted upwards. Under the strong power and burning flames, the space seemed to be ruthlessly torn apart by a pair of big hands. With the body of holy flames, the power of the Changxiao fiery flame slash, which is linked to the fire system, is definitely increased by more than 2 or 3 times. Martial Emperor. I'm sorry, even at the 4th or 5th level, I may not dare to face Jun Changxiao's flaming slash. 10,000 contribution points, it's not unfair to die. Whoosh. Jun Changxiao took all kinds of flames into his body, put his hands behind his back, and said proudly, from today on, I'm also a physical person. Chapter 612. Sect Master Jun is floating. It was dark night. The flames burning in the martial arts arena illuminated everything. Elder Wei and Elder Zen sat at 2 tables, their hands holding the lamp skewers trembling slightly, and their mouths twitching. The reason was simple. This was grilled with the red spirit absolute flame. Not to mention, it tasted pretty good, and was very chewy. That's not the point. The point is that the sect master sat in front of the grill, sometimes releasing divine flames, sometimes releasing holy flames, and skillfully rolling the lamp skewers. Holy flame body. Let him grill the skewers. This operation is simply too cool. In the past, Ziozuji also used a sniper rifle to shoot animals, so this is just a routine operation. Sect master. Liu, she shouted, sprinkle more coming. Okay. Jun Changxiao put down the posture of the sect master, the 9th grade sword king, and the posture of the person with the middle physique, and organized a grand barbecue party for the disciples. Why? Happy and comfortable. The restored Zia Lang stood on the table, his eyes flashing red flames, as if he was very angry, and said, let go. The humanized Zia Markson held the wine pot, and said with big eyes, no. Zia Lang said in a deep voice, if I hadn't just activated the combat form during the day, do you believe that I could beat you so hard that even your mother couldn't recognize you? Humph. Zia Markson said, I haven't settled accounts with you for the last time. Zia Lang sneered, what? You want to fight? Afraid of you? Zia Markson got angry. The two stared at each other for a while, and Zia Lang jumped off the table and said proudly, when I recover, I will let you know how weak you are. Helping the master to share the flame burns made him very tired. However, there are also huge benefits. Both the strength and the control of the flame have become stronger. Leaking Guiyang and others twitched at the corners of their mouths. Although the Zia Markson is not a human, she looks very cute. Zia Lang is not a dog licker, but still so fierce, really manly. The barbecue feast lasted until midnight. The next day, after the disciple woke up, he continued to practice as usual. Jun Changxiao, who had shaped the holy flame body, entered the gathering spirit array to practice. As soon as he started the 5-element Jian Shenju, he found that he was absorbing the fire system several times faster than before. What a pity. The realm was stuck, and no matter how much he absorbed, the spiritual energy in the two spiritual cores did not change at all. Anyway, it's stronger than before. Jun Changxiao was very satisfied, got up and returned to the hall, thinking to himself, should I buy another item from the high-level mall? This time, he set his eyes on the dragon elephant Prajna Palm. With the physique, he must also be equipped with an awesome martial art. The iron must be strong. But if there is some auxiliary equipment, it will definitely be icing on the cake. No. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, Zinao can create martial arts, and exchanging for the Kyankan 9 Seals palm is just around the corner. It seems a bit wasteful to spend 10,000 contribution points to buy a martial art. The main reason is that he is too tight on money. If you have 100,000 or 80,000 contribution points, you will definitely say, it's better to have more skills than less. Jun Changxiao didn't buy the dragon elephant Prajna Palm after all, and locked his eyes on the product mechanical armed wings. What attracted him most about this item was that he could fly freely after wearing it. Flying. Not to mention martial artists, even ordinary people have had infinite fantasies about it. Jun Changxiao said, this item is like a gun. Even if you break through to the martial emperor in the future, you don't need to borrow it. You can give it to your disciples and let them transform into Iron Man. Ding. The host consumes 10,000 contribution points and obtains 1 mechanical armed wing. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 2,991/20,000 point. She would completed the mission, and the rewarded contribution points were instantly spent by him buying 2 products. There is no way. There is no interest if you keep it, so it is better to spend it to make yourself stronger. The mechanical armed wing is an item similar to a boxing glove, with a strong modern atmosphere, like a mechanical glove made of some high-grade ore. Swish. Jun Changxiao communicated with his mind, and his right hand instantly lingered with flowing light. Pieces of iron plates emerged, and then connected with a click, wrapping up his palm and even half of his arm. The mechanical armed wings have 3 forms. The first form is flying, the second form is fighting, and the third form is defense. After activation, it can be activated individually, or in multiple ways. Oh my god. Suzayama passed by the hall, and saw the shiny silver gloves. She was surprised and said, Master, what is this? Jun Changxiao said, infinite gloves. As he said that, he stepped out and directly activated the non-flying form. Click click click. In an instant, the mechanical gloves flashed a firefly-like light, covering Jun Changxiao's whole body, and then a dazzling light was drawn behind him, and gradually materialized. Swish. A pair of silver-white mechanical wings appeared. Even Jun Changxiao's whole body was covered by some special steel material, just like the future warrior in the movie. Cool. Suzuomo was dumbfounded. She even thought that this might be some special armor. Step. Jun Changxiao, wearing a heavy mechanical armor, stepped into the martial arts field. The wings behind him suddenly lingered with hot light, and his feet gradually floated up. Floating. The master is floating. Seeing this, the disciples exclaimed. Jun Changxiao tried hard to master his body balance to avoid falling. Soon, he flew to a height of 20 feet, and his body gradually adapted to the feeling of suspension. The Kyankan talisman once allowed him to cross the void, and now he can fly at the king level, and the feeling is still different. Let's go. Whoosh, the mechanical wings spurted out energy, and Jun Changxiao instantly turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the endless sky. Li Qingyang, Zhao Zuji and others were stunned. The aura of the sect master realm has not reached the level of martial saint. How can he have the power to fly in the air for no reason? Could it be because of the strange wings behind him? Whoosh, whoosh. The sky above Tigu Mountain was full of streams of light. Jun Changxiao, who gradually mastered the balance, was like a big bird, flying recklessly in the sky. Combat form. Kakaka. Jun Changxiao was flying, with streams of light flashing on his wrists, and layers of heavy iron blocks were added, exuding a heavy momentum. The power has increased. Swish. The body turned in the sky, rushed towards the ground, and then fell to the ground with a bang, raising his right fist and smashing it down suddenly. Boom. The sound of the explosion can be heard clearly in the Eternal Sect. Buzz, buzz. The earth shook violently, and Qingyang City and even Huayang City hundreds of miles away could clearly feel the tremor. Kakaka. Jun Changxiao's right fist hit the area, and the ground cracked quickly, and then spread in all directions. Wherever it passed, the rocks collapsed, and the trees collapsed in rows. Whoosh. The wind whistled, and the air wave exploded. Boom. Looking down from above, you can see that the ground cracked to a certain extent, and then the area of dozens of miles centered on Jun Changxiao suddenly sank, rolling up the dust that covered the sky. This punch is quite terrifying. Swish. Jun Changxiao controlled his wings to fly out of the dust, suspended in the air, and his strengthened hands bombarded frantically. A stream of violent energy rippled, the space was stirred and twisted, and then gradually shattered. Oh my god. Did the sect master really break through to the martial emperor? I can't feel the emperor level aura bursting out at all. How can it shake the space? The disciples of the Wangdu sect were shocked. Swoosh. After testing the combat form, Jun Changxiao fell at a very fast speed, and then with a bang, he landed on the martial arts field in a very chic manner. The dust settled. His body was upside down, and his head was stuck in the mud. Obviously, this was because he didn't control the balance of falling, and demonstrated to the disciples what it meant to land on his head. Chapter 613 Entry Assessment. With the holy flame body and mechanical armored wings, Jun Changxiao's strength will definitely increase greatly, but as for how much it will increase, it is impossible to analyze without actual combat. No, I have to try. The restless thoughts of seeking death came up, making Jun Changxiao eager to find someone to fight bitterly. Are there any enemies that haven't been settled yet? Yes. For example, the 100 Sects Alliance. However, with Jun Changxiao's current strength, he can crush them with just one finger, and it is not awesome to go to fight them. How about going to the demonic evil sect and the god-killing temple? As soon as this idea came up, he couldn't help but say, it's exciting just to think about it. More than exciting. The system said, it's also very suicidal. A fourth-rate extreme cold palace has a half-step martial saint, and a third-rate evil sect must have one too. Jun Changxiao just thought about it, so he naturally didn't dare to kill him mindlessly. With the strongest physique in the fire system and mechanical armed wings, it would be really suffocating if he didn't go out to show off. Forget it. Jun Changxiao said, let's continue to develop the sect, and then take the disciples to challenge the Lily Saint sect. Sect Master. Li Qingyang walked into the hall and said, many people have come to join the sect again. How many? 3 or 4,000 people. Jun Changxiao was not surprised. After all, defeating a semi-saint, anyone who is not blind can see that the sect has great potential. Notify the tuning elders and let them be responsible for reviewing the recruitment. Yes. As soon as Li Qingyang left, Elder Wei walked in and said, Sect Master, the sect's reputation has been spread, and there are many disciples. Why not formulate some assessment projects to select outstanding juniors? A mature sect is not about how many disciples are willing to join, but about having the most professional entry process. The most common is that the big sects open the mountain gate every once in a while to recruit talents from all over the world and let them go through many assessments and the survival of the fittest in terms of qualifications and perseverance. Makes sense. Jun Changxiao agreed. The sect has also reached a certain scale. It is impossible to move benches outside to recruit people every day when people come to sign up. It must be systematically planned and develop in a healthy way. Old Wei. Jun Chang smiled and said, do you have any good suggestions? Old Wei said, I think we can open the mountain gate at a fixed time, recruit disciples from outside, and formulate a series of assessments. Only those who pass the assessment can enter the sect. Adopted. Jun Chang smiled. However, how should the assessment be conducted? Old Wei said, we can learn from some more mature sect assessment systems, such as setting up formations on the road leading to the mountain gate, and only those who climb up at the specified time can pass. This matter can be handed over to Old Zen. Jun Chang smiled. Old Wei continued, the way of martial arts is nothing more than the physical body, aptitude, understanding, and perseverance, so the subsequent assessment can also start from the physical body, aptitude, and understanding. The physical body can be tested, and the aptitude and understanding can also be determined by practicing some special martial arts. Jun Chang smiled and murmured. Old Wei said, I'm just making suggestions. The assessment will be decided by the sect master. That's it. Jun Chang smiled and said, if you want to join our Wongu sect, you must go through the test and achieve moral, intellectual, physical and aesthetic development. Of course. Some applicants with talents in formations, medicine, casting, alchemy, etc. will have special test channels. These things naturally fell on Elder Wei and Elder Zen. Jun Changxiao was a man of swift action, and he immediately ordered Li Qingyang to drive away all the applicants gathered at the mountain pass. Bus. On the stairs leading to the mountain gate, the formations flickered. Not long after, Zendejin withdrew his hand and said, Master, the soul gravity formation has been successfully arranged, and there is double gravity inside. The soul gravity formation he arranged came from the 32 formations of Kimen. Not only does it have gravity, it also has a deterrent effect on the soul. It can be said that it tests both the body and the soul. It is undoubtedly very suitable for the first level of assessment. Double is too little. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Increase it to 5 times. Zen Leo's mouth twitched and said, isn't it a bit too harsh? Jun Changxiao said, there are only so many steps in total. If we don't do something ruthless, how can we select outstanding talents with moral, intellectual, physical and aesthetic qualities? Okay. Zen Leo raised the level of the soul gravity array to 5 times. Next, after some thought, Jun Changxiao selected several of the remaining mental methods created by Shangguan Zin Iao as an assessment of qualifications and comprehension. These mental methods have been modified by him. If they can be comprehended within a certain period of time, they can prove themselves. Of course. Jun Zhangsu is not worried about other success in cultivation. After all, their levels are not high, and even if they comprehend the ultimate, they will not achieve much. Qingyang, let them go up the mountain. Yes. At the foot of the mountain, the 3 or 4,000 martial artists who came to register were dejected. Most of these people came from other counties, and they were attracted by the Wongu sect after hearing about its deeds. However, they were chased down as soon as they climbed the mountain. Alas. Someone said, Master Jun went to 8 cities to recruit people. Why didn't I meet him? It's probably very difficult to join the Wongu sect now. This is a top 3 sect with unlimited potential. How could they recruit disciples casually? We have missed the best opportunity. Another warrior said bitterly. It is true that they missed a good opportunity. In the past, Master Jun used all means to develop the sect. Now that he has absolute prestige, he doesn't worry about disciples joining. Naturally, not everyone can join casually. Swish. Li Qingyang flew over and said loudly, if you want to join the sect, you need to go through the mountain climbing test. Those who succeed can stay and continue the test, and those who fail will be eliminated. He waved his sleeves and said, go up. Go. Go. Everyone rushed over immediately. But as soon as they stepped on the first step, a force like a tsunami suddenly pressed over, causing their faces to change drastically. It's so heavy. What kind of power is this? I feel like I'm carrying a mountain on my back. Many ordinary warriors turned grim after just a short while. Of course, there were also strong men who could bear 5 times the gravity and struggled to move up. No. A young man walked less than 10 steps and sat down exhausted. This kind of physical and spiritual pressure is really a very cruel torture for ordinary people. Step. A muscular young man walking in the front walked step by step with sweat all over his body. Although his face was grim, he never gave up. Master Wei Lao Dao, who was standing in front of the mountain gate, said, this boy's not bad. Yeah. Jun Chang smiled and said, he is worth training. Although most of the 3,000 or 4,000 applicants had collapsed, there were many young people with good perseverance who were still struggling to support themselves. Half an hour later, as many as 500 or 600 people climbed up. Among them, some had never been exposed to martial arts, and some had just started practicing. So even if you are born ordinary, you may not be unable to climb the mountain, and you may not be unable to rise from obscurity. Brother, Li Fei said, we are very lucky. Suzaomo said seriously, yes. Among the eliminated applicants, many of them have better qualifications and cultivation than they did back then. If the sect master had established such a strict assessment mechanism at that time, they might not be able to become disciples of the eternal sect. Just when they were sentimental, Jun Changxiao appeared behind them, took out the historical records, and knocked on their heads one by one, saying, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and take care of all those applicants who are exhausted. Yes. Suzaomo and Li Fei rubbed their heads and flew away. The inferiority complex that was about to rise was also knocked away. It is lucky to be able to join the eternal sect in advance, and it is also an opportunity. All you can do is work hard and strive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614. I'm here to challenge you, not to ruin your life. 500 or 600 examinees were then brought into the Wangu sect, standing in the martial arts arena, and began the second round of examinations. The content of the examination was very simple, and the time was set to comprehend the distributed mental methods. Some martial artists with good qualifications and comprehension, after memorizing the formula, were immediately shocked. The mental methods provided by the Wangu sect seemed to be of low level, but they were definitely stronger than the mental methods they practiced. It's worthy of being a top 3 sect. A martial artist secretly said, the mental methods used for the examination are so fierce. If you are lucky enough to become a disciple, the level of martial arts you practice will definitely be higher. Many applicants have a stronger desire to join the Wangu sect, so they are also desperately comprehending the mental methods. 2 hours later, the second round of examinations ended, and there were more than 200 people who comprehended the mental methods. There is no doubt that after 2 rounds of examinations, the applicants who finally passed are very good in terms of physical body, perseverance, qualifications, and comprehension. Jiangzi is responsible for recruiting applicants who pass the examination. Ding. Ding. Jun Changxiao, who was in the main hall, heard the reminder sound in his ears. The number of disciples increased to 10,221, and the contribution value was 3,211. There were only 220 people recruited for 3,000 or 4,000 people. This ratio was a bit low. Jun Changxiao didn't care. In his opinion, the new disciples who passed the 2 rounds of assessment would be easier to train and save more resources. The next day, the Wangu sect announced that on the first day of every month, the sect would open the mountain gate to recruit disciples. Only those who passed the assessment could become the entry disciples. Yes, it was an entry disciple. This was another level that Jun Changxiao divided. Only by proving yourself could you be promoted to the outer sect. Now the disciples of the Wangu sect are divided into 3 types: entry, outer sect, and inner sect. At the same time, there are differences in the enjoyment of resources. In addition to some necessary resources, if the disciples want to grow faster, they must actively complete tasks and then rely on points to exchange for martial arts resources, such as key gathering powder and key gathering pill. After the news was announced, the martial artists in the entire southwest Yangzhou were discussing it. It is normal for a sect to pass an assessment before joining. What makes them speechless is that the Wangu sect opens its gates every month to recruit disciples. Isn't it a bit too diligent? There is no way. Sect Master Jun wants to recruit elites and make the sect strong as soon as possible. He can only shorten the time. Otherwise, it may take a long time to reach 100,000 disciples. Various facilities are becoming more and more complete, and the Wangu sect is more lively than before. Some disciples are practicing, and some disciples are frequently entering and leaving the mission pavilion to receive tasks or exchange rewards. Jiangzi and the Ning brothers give lectures every once in a while to explain the difficult problems of martial arts. Old Wei continues to plant medicinal materials with the members of the medicine hall, while Old Zen continues to train array masters. Standing on the main hall, spiritual thoughts permeate the entire sect. Seeing them busy, Jun Changxiao's face is relieved. It has been 2 years since I came here. The sect that was once decadent and lonely has unlimited potential under its own development. It is really full of a sense of accomplishment. King Guiyang, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, there are more and more disciples. We need to plan well and continue to expand the sect. After leaking Guiyang's several renovations, the Wangu sect can accommodate 10,000 or 20,000 disciples, but it seems a bit crowded and must be expanded. The hilltop where the sect is located still has great development value. Sect Master Li King Guiyang said, disciple has designed a lot of drawings, waiting for your choice. Really? Jun Changxiao jumped down from the roof and said, bring them here, let me see them. Entering the hall, Li King Guiyang waved his hand and took out all the renovation drawings he had studied in his spare time. There were more than 20 kinds. The drawings were very detailed. The wing rooms, attics, greenery, ponds, and even toilets were all planned in. Let's take this one. Jun Changxiao pointed to a design drawing. He chose the largest and most complex one among Li King Guiyang's designs. Since it has become a sect, it must be larger and more luxurious so that it can appear magnificent. However, the cost is also very high. Here, Jun Changxiao threw the space ring over and said, there are 10 million taels in it. The building materials purchased must be the best and most expensive. Yes. Li King Guiyang took the money and started to dig the ground immediately. He did not hire craftsmen for the expansion of the sect this time, but took his fellow disciples to do it himself. A group of martial masters and martial kings must be much faster than ordinary people when building a house. The most miserable one is Pepper the wild boar. The medicine garden is not expanded, and it is a rare opportunity to rest, but it was sent to transport soil again. However, the little guy has changed a lot. Not only has he grown a lot taller, but his body is also very strong and beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's not an evolution like Xia Longlong, but he has exerted too much effort and was hammered alive. What species are you? Jun Changxiao murmured. It used to look like a pig, but now it's completely different. The system said, with the earth attribute, this fantasy beast should be extraordinary. It looks a bit useless now, but it may be sublimated one day. Really? Jun Changxiao was looking forward to the day when the little guy would be sublimated. Hoo-hoo. At this moment, the wild boar Pepper, who had just turned the ground, fell straight to the ground. Jun Changxiao shook his head, summoned the King Lang Yanyu sword, and said coldly, if you dare to pretend to be dead again, I will kill you immediately. Swish. Wild Boar Pepper stood up instantly and continued to work energetically. Cry. There was a cry of eagle beasts in the sky above Shianyu Academy, and then the Black Eagle of Demon Ridge flapped its wings, slowly landed on the playground, and rolled up a gust of wind. It's teacher Jun. The disciples exclaimed in admiration. Under their eyes, Jun Changxiao wore sunglasses and walked into the meeting room in a chic manner. There was only one purpose for coming here this time, that is, to thank the strong men sent by the academy to protect him in secret. Dean Situ. After sitting down, Jun Changxiao put 2 bottles of body shaping pills on the table without saying a word and said, "Thank you for your help not long ago. Jun is very grateful. These body shaping pills are presented to you as a token of respect." The body shaping pills sold by the AI family? Sitahaoan asked in surprise. Jun Changxiao said, "Yes. Master Jun is the honorary tutor of my school. It is only natural for me to help you when you encounter troubles." Sitahaoan said as he took the pills away, not refusing at all. Jun Changxiao chatted with him for a while, then went to the certification headquarters, presented 2 bottles of body shaping pills, and then went to the city lord's mansion to visit City Lord Mu. Mu Changhang entertained him warmly, especially at the banquet. Every time he looked at this rising star, he would smile, and even stopped calling Master Jun, and changed his address to Nephew. City Lord Mu. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, "The affairs of the sect are busy, so I will leave first." City Lord Mu personally went out to see him off. After returning to the sect, before Jun Changxiao entered the hall, Yi Xingchen came over and said, "Sect Master, I want to challenge the geniuses on the Heroes Gathering list." After obtaining the qualification to challenge, he did not challenge immediately, but continued to practice in the sect. Now that he has entered the Martial King, the time has come. "Sect Master, I will go too," Xiao Zuji said. Jun Changxiao said, "Okay." So, Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji left the Eternal Ancient Sect after dinner. The whole world is about to become uneasy, because Yi Di's idea is to challenge the last genius on the human list, and step by step climb to the top of the heaven list and even the top. "Junior brother." On the way, Xiao Zuji said, "Where are we going?" Yi Xingchen said, "First go to the nearest city, get the latest list of the Heroes Gathering list, and then challenge them one by one." Northwest Hezhao, Qin family. Bang, with a loud explosion, the gate that had existed for hundreds of years was smashed to pieces, and several servants who were guarding the gate fell to the ground in a mess. Xiao Zuji was stunned. "Junior brother Yi, we are here to challenge, not to mess things up." Chapter 615, The Vigorous Night Emperor. In the latest list of the Elite Gathering, the genius ranked 100th in the human category is named Qinhuaiyu, who lives in Lian City, Hezhao, in the northwest. Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji rode on hurricane wolves and rushed over at the fastest speed. Qin family. The leader of the 4 major families in Lian City, the strength is comparable to that of a 6th-rate sect. Qinhuaiyu is a direct descendant of the Qin family. He gathered all the resources to be ranked 100th, and he is the pride of the whole family. Therefore, it is almost impossible for outsiders to come to the door to ask for an audience. When Yi Xingchen arrived at the Qin family, the first sentence was, "I want to challenge Qinhuaiyu, let him come out quickly for a fight." "Challenging my son, are you qualified?" Some young people nowadays are really brave, and they dare to challenge the human-shaped genius without even looking at their own material. Every day, those who challenge my son can line up at the city gate. Who do you think you are? Get out of here. The Qin family's gatekeepers were extremely arrogant, so they angered Yi Di, who directly used violence to beat them out and smash the Qin family's gate to pieces. Although the means are extreme, the effect is extremely good. Swish. Swish. In an instant, more than 10 martial artists rushed out from the inner courtyard of the Qin family. Their strength was at the level of martial masters, and they glared at the 2 young men who came. Yi Xingchen said lightly, "Let Qinhuaiyu come out to fight." "How dare you?" The head of the Qin family walked out of the hall, and his peak martial master cultivation burst out. He instantly performed spiritual power type martial arts, gathering a ray of light to press over. Boom. Yi Xingchen raised his fist to break the light. Da 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 da. The head of the Qin family retreated several steps, his eyes filled with horror, and said, "Are you the martial king? Martial king?" The faces of the surrounding Qin family martial artists suddenly changed. Yi Xingchen said coldly, "Hurry up and let Qin Huayu come out, otherwise, I will smash your Qin family." Arrogant and domineering. Xiao Zuji, who was standing next to him, twitched his mouth slightly. Junior brother Yi really has the style of a sect master, and he is also a madman when he gets angry. Jun Changxiao is arrogant because he must establish his prestige and let others deeply understand that you can't afford to offend the eternal sect. This is passive. Our Lord Yidi is different. He is really arrogant. As long as the words don't go well, he will overturn the table immediately. The face of the head of the Qin family was extremely ugly. The strong man at the level of Wu Wang, the Qin family can't afford to offend this young friend. An elder bowed and said, "Did my direct line offend you?" "No." Yi Xingchen showed the waist card he got from the qualifying battle not long ago, and said lightly, "I'm here to play the ranking." The corners of Qin's mouth twitched violently. This guy has the cultivation of Wu Wang level, but he is not ranked yet. It's incredible. Hu. Yi Xingchen fully opened the Wu Wang cultivation, which permeated the sky above the Qin family. He said with a cold look, "I'm in a hurry, let that kid come out to fight quickly." Threat. Naked threat. Originally, the Qin family wanted to lie that the person was not there, but they were frightened by his momentum and hurriedly called Qin Huayu, who was in retreat. Boom. Boom. In the martial arts arena, spiritual energy spread wildly. After being beaten by Yi Xingchen, Qin Huayu, who had just appeared, was beaten to death. Rubbish. Yi Di turned and left the Qin family. The Qin family breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Huayu lost to the challenger and would be kicked out of the human-shaped list. They were not depressed at all because the fierce guy left and everything would be fine. Boom. In a certain city, in a certain family's martial arts arena, Yi Xingchen punched his opponent away and shook his head and said, "Really rubbish." After that, he walked away. Xiao Zuji followed and shook his head helplessly. Yi Xingchen defeated two in succession and ranked 99th in the human-shaped list. What he meant was to give the genius who slipped to the 100th place some time and then continue to challenge and replace him. As a result, junior brother Yi beat him half to death, and it would take several months just to recover from his injuries. Forget it. Forget it. There will be plenty of time in the future. Let the poor guy recover first. Just like that, Xiao Zuji, who had planned to improve his ranking together, watched Yi Xingchen fight the whole time. A few days later, the two of them traveled through various states and challenged more than 20 people one after another. Needless to say, Yi Xingchen, who has the cultivation of Martial King, is a bug. As long as he comes to fight, the human-shaped genius will definitely be defeated extremely miserably. Have you heard about it? Recently, there is an extremely arrogant guy who has challenged the human-shaped genius one after another. At least 20 people have been defeated by him. Of course I heard about it, and I also know that the guy's a disciple of the eternal ancient sect, named Yi Xingchen. This newly rising sect is not only powerful, but also powerful in disciples. When many warriors were discussing, they were also looking forward to the group of heroes that were refreshed every half a month because they wanted to see what rank Yi Xingchen could climb to. Eternal Ancient Sect. Li Luoqiu walked into the hall and said, "Sect Master, the latest group of heroes list has been released. Yi Xingchen has never been ranked and has been promoted to the 45th place in the human-shaped list." Jun Chang laughed and said, "In just half a month, he challenged 55 geniuses. This guy's pretty fast. If the Black Hawk of Demon Ridge or the Hurricane Wolf King was given to Yi Xingchen, he could travel faster between states and counties and defeat more geniuses on the list." Sect Master. Li Luoqiu said, "Every time this guy challenges, he beats his opponent half to death. If this continues, he may anger the public." Jun Chang laughed and said disapprovingly, "If you are not as skilled as others, you should accept the loss. What kind of disciples you have, what kind of sect master you have. My god, that guy has never been on the list, but he directly made it to the top 50. This speed is definitely the fastest in history, right?" The latest issue of the Group of Heroes was released. Seeing Yi Xingchen's ranking, many warriors widened their eyes. The challenge continues. Half a month later, the latest list was released. Yi Xingchen went directly from 45th to 2nd, which immediately caused a huge sensation in all states and counties. In just 30 days, from obscurity to the 2nd place of the human character number, this speed is simply unprecedented. Northwest Hezhou, Wancheng. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of martial artists have gathered outside the ring. Is he Yi Xingchen? In 1 month, he has risen from the bottom to the 2nd place. His improvement speed is too terrifying. This time I challenge the 1st place in the human category. If I win again, I will be invincible. On the ring, Yi Xingchen stood proudly with his hands behind his back. After defeating the 2nd place in the human category, he came to Wancheng and challenged the 1st ranked genius. It can be said that he was resolute and resolute. Young Master Sun is here. At this moment, someone shouted at the top of his voice. Just looking at the empty road, a handsome young man came over surrounded by servants. Sun Heyou, the direct descendant of the Sun family in Wancheng, the 1st place in the human category of the group of heroes. There are not many geniuses in Northwest Hezhou who made the list. Sun Heyou can make it to the top of the list. He is definitely a leader of the younger generation and an existence that everyone admires and looks up to. Mr. Sun is so handsome. He will definitely beat Yi Xingchen. There is a dealer opening the market. I will bet all my wealth on Mr. Sun. The arrival of Sun Heyou immediately caused a commotion. It shows that this genius who ranks 1st in the human shaped list is extremely popular in the royal city. Step. Landing on the ring, Sun Heyou said proudly, "You are quite capable to be promoted to the 2nd place in the human shaped list in a short time. If you don't come to challenge me, your winning streak will end. Even one side is so handsome. No. Some young girls were so fascinated by Sun Heyou's profile that they couldn't tell the east, west, south, and north. At the same time, they did not forget to look at Yi Xingchen with a creepy look. This guy who doesn't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is dares to challenge my idol. Just wait to be abused." Xiao Zuji in the crowd shook his head and said, "This guy's average in strength, and he can't escape the fate of being abused by junior brother Yi." Chapter 616. This kind of rubbish is worthy of being at the top of the human level list. Just as Yi Xingchen was vigorously challenging the genius with the character human, the Wangu sect also held the 2nd sect competition as scheduled. According to last year's rules, this year is also divided into 4 groups. A, B, C, and D. Group D is undoubtedly the weakest. But the strength of the disciples participating in this competition is all in the martial arts sect, and the fight is quite fierce. It is no exaggeration to say that with the current strength of the disciples of Wangu sect, if they participate in the competitions held in various counties, they will definitely win the championship 100%, leaving no room for other contestants. Yi Xingchen challenged the genius with the character human in 99 games, and none of them could be compared with the fights in Group DY, because they were all killed in seconds, which was not exciting at all. On the other hand, the disciples in Group D were equally strong and familiar with the martial arts of the sect. When they fought, sparks flew everywhere. It's a pity. It's an internal competition of the sect, and there are no outsiders watching the battle, otherwise they will definitely be shocked beyond words. The highest level is still Group A, because those who dare to sign up are all martial kings who have been promoted by the martial king bill. The sect fights, and the martial kings fight. If this gets out, it will definitely make people drop their jaws. Li Shangshan, Lin Jianghang, Sima Zongda and other disciples signed up for Group A and also showed their super strength. However, the most valuable champion was won by He Wudi, who joined later. Too amazing. Not even at the same level. Li Shangshan, Cui Bujian and others were defeated, and they wanted to cry, but had no tears. Last time, they didn't dare to participate in the battle of Group A, because Long Xiang and others were too strong. That group of people were promoted to the inner sect, and they finally felt like they had made it. As a result, He Wudi turned out and took the 2nd championship with his strong cultivation. The champion only had more awards. Li Shangshan and others who performed well in Group A successfully became inner sect disciples. So far, the number of inner sect disciples of the Eternal Sect has increased from 21 at the beginning to 93. In other words, all the outer sect disciples who broke through to the martial king with the martial king pill were admitted to the inner sect. He did not become an inner sect disciple because he was a closed disciple. Although it was funny at first, as this person showed his talent, Jun Changxiao gradually realized that he deserved to be accepted as his last disciple. Ding. Disciple Yi Xingchen was promoted to the first place in the human category of the Gathering of Heroes list, and the host received 5,000 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value to the sect. 8,211 over 20,000 point. A few days after the sect competition ended, Jun Changxiao heard a reminder sound. Oh my. That kid got the first place in the human category and got a bonus contribution point. The system said, Yi Xingchen was cultivated by the host. If he participates in a well-regarded competition and gets good results, he will naturally benefit from it. The well-regarded it said was very well-regarded. For example, the first place in the human category of the Gathering of Heroes list is very standard and has a lot of weight. If you go to participate in the competition held in the county and the standards are not met, even if all the disciples win the championship, the Master Jun will not benefit at all. Cool. Jun Changxiao grinned. On that day, Li Luoqiu walked into the hall and said, I just got the news that Yi Xingchen challenged Sun Heyou, the top of the human character list. What was the result? Jun Chang smiled. He already knew from the reward that Yi Xingchen won, so he asked what happened to his opponent. Li Luoqiu shook his head and said, the top genius was very arrogant after he came on stage, which angered Yi Xingchen, and then he was severely humiliated in public. This was learned from intelligence, and more subtle things could not be known. In fact, after Yi Xingchen and Sun Heyou started, they only used one punch to knock each other to the ground, and then launched a horrible abuse. The whole process was witnessed by hundreds of thousands of warriors in the royal city, and they were so scared that their scalps exploded. Ruthless. Super ruthless. Sun Heyou's fans, seeing their rival being abused to pieces, were stunned on the spot, and some even cried. The warriors who bet all their wealth on Mr. Song Sun cried even more miserably. However, what they could not tolerate the most was, after the violence, Yi Xingchen kicked Sun Heyou off the stage and said lightly, this kind of trash is also worthy of being on the top of the human-shaped list. Damn. This guy is too arrogant. Boy. A martial king hidden in the dark said in a deep voice, do you dare to fight me? This person did not know Sun Heyou, and he stood up, because he could not tolerate the disciples of the eternal ancient sect being so arrogant and domineering at his doorstep. Boy, don't be a coward. If you have the courage, quickly accept the challenge. The warriors in the royal city started to make a fuss, fearing that Yi Xingchen would give in and choose not to fight. Sun Heyou was abused so badly, and it was a slap in the face of Northwest Hezhou, so it was normal for them to be hostile. Come up. Yi Xingchen said lightly. During this period, it is really boring to ravage the rookie of the Wuzang level. It is also good to change to a high level opponent to abuse. Swish. The Wu King flew over and landed on the ring. Whoosh. Before he could stand firm, Yi Xingchen waved his hand, and the hot flames roared out and instantly condensed the killing seal and blasted over. Not good. The Wu King was shocked. Boom. The next second, he flew out and fell to the ground in a mess. His chest was burned, and he fainted gloriously. He came quickly and lost quickly. Those spectators who were going to cheer for the Wu King were stunned on the spot with their mouths open. Even the Wu King was killed by him in seconds. How terrifying is this strength? Yi Xingchen retracted the diffuse flames, swept the warriors present, and said proudly, who else is not convinced? I don't accept it. I don't accept it either. Several Wu Kings in the royal city were eager to try. Today, if you don't defeat this arrogant guy, it will be hard to swallow the bad breath. Wang Guzang. Jun Changxiao supervised his disciples' cultivation as usual, occasionally went to the medicine garden to drink tea with Wei Liao, and lived a smooth life. Sect Master. At this moment, Li Luoqiu came hurriedly and said, something happened. What happened? Jun Changxiao said. Li Luoqiu said solemnly, Yi Xingchen has offended too many people in the royal city. As soon as he and Zhao Zuji left the royal city, they were targeted by several martial emperors. Damn. Jun Changxiao said, "You can't beat my disciples, so you send people to play sneak attacks." Northwest Hezhao is so shameless. He didn't know how arrogant Yu Xingchen was in the royal city. Xiao Zuji sent a request for help. The two were trapped in Yunshan Ridge. Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changxiao walked out of the hall, and mechanical wings gathered behind him in an instant. He said with a cold look, "I want to see who dares to bully my disciples of the Wanguzang." Whoosh, it turned into a stream of light, and rushed to the northwest. Li Luoqiu shook his head and said, when he learned that Lu Qian was bullied in Luzhou, northeast China, he angrily gathered his men to kill her. But now that Yu Xingchen and Xiao Zuji are trapped, he is not panicked. They are both disciples, so why is there such a big difference? He said this, as if Sect Master Jun was biased. Chapter 617. You're in trouble. They are both disciples, and they are both in trouble, so why does Jun Changxiao behave so differently? Biased? Not true. Having reached the peak of both sword and martial arts, and having the body of holy flame and mechanical armed wings, Jun Zhangzu has become more mature and stable than before. It is unforgivable to offend my disciples. But if you still lead your disciples to kill them recklessly, like you did to save Lu Qian, it would be really irrational. What's more, Yu Xingchen and Xiao Zuji have entered the stage of martial arts kings. Even if they can't beat martial arts emperors, they should be able to protect themselves. The palms and backs of the hands are all flesh. There is no difference between men and women. Jun Changxiao really guessed it right. Although Yu Xingchen and Xiao Zuji were trapped in Yunshan Ridge, it would be difficult to find several martial arts emperors for a while. Strange. A strong man in a black robe and a strange mask released his spiritual thoughts, covering the entire mountain forest, and said in a cold voice, "I saw them come in. Why are there no figures?" There were a total of 4 people chasing Yu Xingchen and Xiao Zuji. All of them were dressed in black robes, and wearing ferocious masks, looking very mysterious. This time the master has given a death order. We must capture a disciple of the Eternal Sect no matter what. If we fail to complete it, we will definitely be punished when we return, said another martial emperor. I thought it was a good job, but I didn't expect the 2 little guys to be so smart. If one of them is not watched, we can't find them. Don't be distracted. The martial emperor who was walking in the front said in a deep voice, the 2 must still be in Yunshan Ridge. They must have used some kind of treasure to shield their own aura and avoid our spiritual detection. In the dark, Xiao Zuji gently pushed aside the leaves, revealing a pair of dark eyes, which felt like a special forces soldier performing a mission in the jungle. Junior brother Yi, they really can't find us. Yu Xingchen, who was hiding next to him, raised a trace of disdain at the corner of his mouth. In terms of strength, he can't beat the martial emperor for the time being. However, when the Taixuan Sutra is running, he can block his own and Xiao Zuji's aura, and the other party will never be able to find them. People will not be found, but they were in a valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The entrance to the outside world was blocked, so they could only hide in the dark and play hide and seek with several martial emperors. I have notified the nearest Xiaotang members. Xiao Zuji said, the sect master will get the news and will come to rescue soon. Trouble. Yu Xingchen stood up and left the bushes. With his personality, he would never wait for the sect master to rescue him, but was thinking about how to break out of the encirclement of several martial emperors. Junior brother Yi, Xiao Zuji said, don't be impulsive. Yu Xingchen said lightly, if you want to survive in this cruel world, you can't rely on others, but on yourself. What he said makes sense. Xiao Zuji said nothing and hurriedly followed. The 2 did not dare to release their spiritual thoughts recklessly, so as not to be captured, so they could only sneak in the woods quietly. There, they were still discovered. Whoosh, the violent spiritual energy roared and instantly smashed the surrounding trees. Yu Xingchen and Xiao Zuji immediately stepped on the cloud stepping steps, and rushed into the nearby bushes, disappearing without a trace in an instant. But, in an instant, the key domain opened. The martial emperor who was chasing them blocked the area, and then searched carefully, but still couldn't find them. The key domain works for other martial kings, but it has no effect on Xiao Zuji and Yu Xingchen. Because the 2 have been practicing in the training tower for many years, as long as the pressure is not that kind of crushing, they will not be affected in a short time. Damn it. The martial emperor said angrily. Do they have a treasure to resist the key domain? Another person who rushed over said, if the eternal ancient sect does not have some ability, it is impossible for it to rise in such a short time. It's better to go to Qingyang County, hide in the dark, and wait for the disciples of the eternal ancient sect to come out, and rob any of them, and go back to report to the master. Mu Changhang has broken through to the half-step martial saint, and Jun Changxiao has abused the grand elder of the extreme cold palace. We will definitely be discovered by them if we go there. The martial emperor was silent. The leader of the eternal ancient sect can abuse a half-saint, so naturally he doesn't have the courage to go to their territory. Junior brother Yi, Xiao Zuji, who was hiding, transmitted his voice. These people are wearing masks and look very mysterious. They may not be the strong men of the royal city. Yi Xingchen said nothing. In fact, he had realized it a long time ago. This group of people are dressed strangely. They must be a force that is not visible to the public. Yi Xingchen said secretly. Let's go. After observing for a while, he set off again. Xiao Zuji followed closely behind. The two of them sneaked around in the mountains and forests and soon came to the entrance. Junior brother, they seem to have left. It's not that simple. Yi Xingchen didn't think that the four martial emperors had left. Maybe they deliberately exposed the flaws. The two hid in the dark and waited. Half an hour later, the entrance was still empty, and occasionally a few fierce beasts passed by, indicating that there were no people nearby. Yi Xingchen was still worried and continued to spend time in the dark. Sure enough, another half an hour passed, and two masked martial emperors flew over and released their spiritual thoughts into the valley. After not getting any results, they couldn't help but complain. Could they have slipped away? There is only one exit in Yinshan Ridge. That shouldn't be the case. The disciples of the eternal ancient sect are a bit weird. Maybe they use some secret method to escape. They must go back to Qingyang County. We can intercept them on the way they must pass. That's right. The two martial emperors flew into the air and left Yinshan Ridge. It was very depressing that the two martial kings disappeared under the eyes of the four of them. Junior brother, Xiao Zuji transmitted his voice. Can we go out now? Let's go. Yi Xingchen started to walk. The two of them came out of Yinshan Ridge smoothly, but they had no intention of returning to the sect. Winning the first place in the human category was not enough to satisfy Yi Di. He would challenge the genius in the earth category next. However, when the two had just walked a few miles, it seemed that some kind of restriction was triggered, and the surrounding space was distorted, and they immediately appeared in an ethereal environment. Not good. Yi Xingchen frowned and said, it's a formation. Ha ha ha. A masked martial emperor walked in and laughed strangely. Do you really think that you can leave safely by hiding in it and using some kind of treasure to block the breath? Yinshan Ling couldn't find anyone, so he set up a formation outside, waiting for the other party to fall into the trap. You too. The man said lightly. Don't resist, just follow me. Where to go? No need to ask more. You will know when you go. What if you don't go? That's not up to you. Yi Xingchen said. In that case, we can only go with you. Junior brother. Xiao Zuji just opened his mouth, and Yi Xingchen transmitted his voice. Make plans after you get out of the formation. In the current situation, it is definitely impossible to fight, and people are also trapped in the formation. They can only pretend to compromise and find another way to escape. Although Yi Di was arrogant, he was not a fool. He would not act rashly when faced with a situation that was extremely unfavorable to him. Of course, if he could turn danger into safety by acting rashly, he could do it. The key point was that he could not act rashly. But, Yi Xingchen reminded, our sect master values his disciples very much. You'd better consider the consequences so as not to lose more than you gain. Boy, don't delay time deliberately. The martial emperor said indifferently. Do you want to seal your meridians yourself, or let me do it? Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji looked at each other and cooperated to seal their own meridians. Whoosh! The stream of light dissipated and the formation was withdrawn. The leader standing outside said, we have wasted a lot of time. Let's go back quickly. The two companions walked towards Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji. Just as they were about to take them away, they saw a stream of light rushing in from a distance, then stopped in midair, and a cold voice came. No one can leave. Sect Master. Xiaozuji was overjoyed. Yi Xingchen said, "You are going to be unlucky." Chapter 618, Killing 4 Martial Emperors Instantly. The 4 Martial Emperors looked up and saw the young man flying in midair with a pair of wings behind him that looked like they were made of some kind of ore. Although they were wearing masks and couldn't see their expressions clearly, they must have been very surprised. The leading martial emperor understood something from Xiaozuji's cry and said in a deep voice, "Are you Jun Changxiao?" Step. Jun Changxiao landed lightly on the ground and said lightly, "You can't beat my disciples of the Eternal Sect, so you send martial emperors to attack. Do you have any shame in Northwest Hezhao?" He was very angry. Although my disciple is a bit arrogant on weekdays, at least he is challenging openly. You can't beat him, so is it interesting to use such a despicable method? Yi Xingchen transmitted his voice. "Master, they may not be from Northwest Hezhao." "No?" Jun Changxiao's eyes were filled with astonishment. Could it be that someone is deliberately framing him so that he and Northwest Hezhao would have a conflict and evolve into a fight? "You think too much," said the system. If the 4 martial emperors were not from Hezhao in the northwest, then the consideration of Sect Master Jun was not unreasonable. You know, in this world, although the military force is the greatest, there are also people who play tricks. The 4 martial emperors have determined that the person who came must be the Sect Master of the Eternal Ancient Sect, but they are also very curious. Could the wings behind him be a treasure that can help him fly? Sect Master Jun, the leading martial emperor, said indifferently, "We have no ill intentions. No matter whether you have any ill intentions or not." Jun Chang smiled and said, "If you dare to provoke my Eternal Ancient Sect, you must pay the price." "Humph." A martial emperor said coldly, "I have heard that Sect Master Jun is a very arrogant master. Today I see that he is indeed worthy of his reputation." Swish. Jun Chang smiled and sacrificed the Qinglang Yanyu sword and said indifferently, "Are you going to come one by one or together?" After breaking through to the peak of the sword and martial arts double king and possessing the holy flame body, he wanted to find someone to fight. Damn it. Finally, I can pretend to be cool. Having said that, the strength of the 4 martial emperors is not weak. The leader is a 5th grade martial emperor, and the other 3 are 4th grade martial emperors, which are already at a medium to high level. In Lhotao, northeast China, Jun Changxiao's 7th grade sword and martial arts double king cultivation may not be able to take advantage of the master of the extreme cold palace. Now, is he sure to fight 4 people alone? We will know whether we are sure or not after the fight. The 4 martial emperors looked at each other as if they had made a decision. The leading martial emperor said, "Master Jun, the young hero, we want to learn from you. This is an agreement. From the perspective of us, it is obvious that we have to fight 4 against 1. They will not underestimate Jun Changxiao. After all, he has defeated a half-step martial saint. But they don't think that they have no chance of winning. It is widely circulated in the outside world that the master of the Eternal Ancient Sect has stimulated his magical powers, and his cultivation has skyrocketed in an instant, allowing him to defeat a half-step martial saint. Since it is a magical power, there must be limitations, and it can't just explode. Now, this kid has flown over with the help of wings similar to the treasure, which means that he has not reached the emperor level. Can't the 4 of us martial emperors beat him alone? It has to be said. There is no fool who can become a martial emperor. His guess is almost right. Swish. The spiritual energy in Jun Changxiao's body roared out, turning into a big hand to cover Yi Xingchen and Xiaozuji, and then pulled them back and placed them a certain distance behind him. "Come on," he said impatiently, "I'm in a hurry." This angered the 4 martial emperors, and they all burst out their cultivation. The masks on their faces looked even more eerie and strange. Go. Swish, swish, swish. 3 martial emperors flew over from 3 directions. Jun Changxiao controlled the armed wings and flew over close to the ground. The Qinglang Yanyu sword in his hand suddenly burst into hot flames. Swish, 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 swish. He swung the sword continuously, and 3 hot flames burst out. Although the means of this attack are slightly clean, it actually contains extremely strong firepower. Not good. A martial emperor exclaimed, "Get out of the way." The other two martial emperors who were rushing over also sensed something was wrong and immediately suppressed the thought of using their martial arts, then turned around and went around. However, the three scorching flames suddenly accelerated, leaving them no chance to dodge. In a hurry, they could only gather their spiritual energy in front of them to form an air wall. Boom. 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 The hot air waves filled the air, and the affected plants and trees instantly evaporated into nothingness. Thump. 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 The three martial emperors flew out, and they retreated dozens of feet in a very embarrassing manner before they stabilized their bodies. The air wall in front of them had been violently destroyed. At this moment, the masks hanging on their faces cracked and quickly fell off, revealing three bloodless faces. The masks were weird enough, and their faces were even weirder. They were like zombies who had never seen the sun for many years and lived in a dark environment for many years. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "Are you evil cultivators? A normal warrior would never look like this. Only evil cultivators who go to extremes would look so scary. This boy is very powerful." The leading martial emperor, who was still wearing a mask, said in a deep voice, "Set up a formation to fight." Okay. The other three martial emperors suppressed their boiling blood and then dispersed, keeping their distance from each other, and made complicated hand seals. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, a stream of dark attributes emerged from their bodies and then connected to each other. Really an evil cultivator. Jun Changxiao raised a trace of disdain at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, he guessed again. Could the other party be someone sent by the demonic sect and the Temple of Killing Gods, deliberately instigating him to have a feud with Hezhao in the northwest? Fortunately, he didn't bring his disciples to kill them in a mighty force. Otherwise, alarming the forces here would only make things more troublesome. The gloomy aura was still being released, quickly interweaving into a large net, overwhelming and pressing down. Jun Changxiao said coldly, "Insignificant demons and monsters." Hoo-hoo. As he spoke, the blade of the King Lang Yanyu sword was suddenly covered with flames, and the temperature around it rose wildly. "This is," the leading martial emperor said in surprise, "Red Star Absolute Flame. How is it possible?" The faces of the other three martial emperors changed drastically. As a divine fire seed, the power of the Red Star Absolute Flame is not only explosive, but can also burn all evil spirits. It is indeed the nemesis of evil ways. Break. Jun Changxiao went up with a knife and suddenly chopped at the big net that was pressing down. He saw the bursting knife energy erupting and tearing it apart fiercely. Under the burning of the violent temperature, the gloomy attributes of the rupture were instantly evaporated into nothingness. Puff. The three martial emperors vomited blood one after another. Swish. At this moment, Jun Changxiao flew over and waved the King Lang Yanyu sword again. Three flame knife energy carrying the Red Star Absolute Flame flew down like a stream of 3,000 feet. Kakaka, rubbing against the space, there was a crackling sound, as if it was about to collapse at any time. Boom. 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 The three martial emperors had no chance to dodge at all, and were hit by the domineering flame knife, and then exploded like a cannonball. When they landed, there were deep knife marks on their chests, and the pain seemed to be burning their souls, making their faces suddenly hideous. To be honest, this is a complete instant kill. Seeing that the situation was not good, the leading martial emperor immediately flew into the air and fled towards the endless sky. Want to run? Jun Changxiao sneered, and then immediately controlled the armed wing to chase after him. The speed was really fast. In just a few breaths, he caught up with the fleeing martial emperor, and then suddenly swung his knife to chop him. The other party would not remain indifferent, and hurriedly condensed a wall of air in front of him. Boom. A powerful and heavy knife slashed fiercely, ruthlessly shattering the wall of air. Boom. The martial emperor fell from the sky like a cannonball, and then sunk into the ground. The mask on his face had been shattered, revealing an equally pale face. Tram. Jun Changxiao flew down, and the King Lang Yanyu sword directly pierced his neck, with only a millimeter of gap from the muscle. His voice was extremely cold, and he said, "Who sent you?" Chapter 619 Dark Sect. The four martial emperors condensed the yin evil attribute, which was chilling, but they were completely suppressed by the extremely strong and positive flame of the Red Star Absolute Flame. The sect master is amazing. Xiao Zhuge's eyes were filled with strong admiration. Yi Xingchen was not surprised. If the sect master had released the power of the previous punch that sank the ground within a range of dozens of miles, the 4 martial emperors would have been dead by now. He was talking about the armed wing combat form. Jun Changxiao was too lazy to use it because the red star absolute flame alone could solve it. Therefore, spending 20,000 contribution points to kill several 4th and 5th grade martial emperors at the peak king level is still very worthwhile. It is absolutely a fantasy for a martial king to fight a martial emperor above his level. However, Jun Changxiao is an exception. Because of the system, this special existence cannot be interpreted by normal thinking. If a nuclear bomb is swiped out from the mall one day and the whole world is directly destroyed, it is not impossible. The martial emperor who was shot down fell to the ground in pain, but did not dare to move at all, because the thick and heavy knife was inserted next to his neck. My patience is limited, Jun Changxiao said coldly. He could easily kill these 4 martial emperors, but he had to find out who they were and what their purpose was. I tell you, can you avoid death? The martial emperor said weakly. Of course. Jun Changxiao said lightly. Okay. The martial emperor said, wait for me to catch my breath. He was seriously injured by the flame power of the red star absolute flame after taking a direct hit. Jun Changxiao said, don't play tricks, otherwise. Bang. Before he finished speaking, the lying martial emperor suddenly disappeared, leaving only a cloud of white smoke, and then disappeared with the wind. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. Damn, I haven't finished speaking, and he really played tricks. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, the other 3 martial emperors who fell in the distance also disappeared out of thin air, leaving only a faint white smoke. Master. Yi Xingchen transmitted his voice. These people should have used some kind of escape technique. I was careless. Jun Changxiao said in annoyance. Thousands of miles away, 4 martial emperors appeared out of thin air in the void, then staggered to the ground, their faces becoming even paler. As Yi Xingchen said, they used the escape technique, and although they escaped from danger, their bodies also fell into a worse state. No. I didn't expect that the master of the eternal ancient sect was so powerful, and the 4 of us were not even a match. The leading martial emperor spoke with difficulty. If that guy didn't have the divine flame of the red star absolute flame, we might not have been defeated so miserably. This mission failed, and we will inevitably be punished by the master when we return. Hearing the word punishment, everyone's faces became more painful, and a chill rose from their backs. Let's go, let's go. The leading martial emperor stood up with difficulty and said, let's find a place to heal our wounds first. Jun Changxiao sat cross-legged on a huge rock, holding his chin and said, could they be sent by the demonic sect and the god-killing temple? It's possible. Xiao Zuji said. There are only 2 evil cultivation forces that have grudges against the eternal sect, so it's easy to associate them. Yi Xingchen said, the demonic sect and the god-killing temple have just suffered a setback. How could they be so stupid as to send a 4th or 5th grade martial emperor? That's right. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Having just used spirit stones to redeem the peak martial emperor, the 2 evil sects should know their own strength. Now sending a few mid-level martial emperors is like sending food, isn't it? Moreover, Yi Xingchen said, in order to capture us, sending 4 martial emperors directly, a 3rd-rate evil sect may not be able to do it. You mean, these people may come from a 1st or 2nd-rate evil sect? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Yi Xingchen guessed, maybe they are not from the evil sect, but from the dark sect. Dark sect? Jun Changxiao heard it for the first time. Yi Xingchen said, the forces that hide in the dark and are not well known are collectively called dark sects. The dark sect forces do not like to show up, and there are no legends about them in the world. The most representative dark sect is the former Iron sect. This is a force similar to a killer. It has developed in the dark for thousands of years. Although there are not many disciples, its strength is very strong, and is not weaker than the 1st and 2nd-rate sects. It's a pity. Later, it offended Yi Xingchen in the previous life, and was directly destroyed. The process was very difficult. Our Lord Knight Emperor spent several years to finally catch them all. It can be seen how hidden the dark sect is, that a martial emperor can go to such great lengths. Jun Changxiao rubbed his temples and said secretly, I still know a little about this world. Not a little. Except for the top masters, not many people know about the Dark Sect. Yi Xingchen did not continue to challenge the Earth-level genius, but followed the sect master back to the sect. If the 4 martial emperors are from the Dark Sect, it means that the Eternal Sect has been targeted, and there may be other actions next. To avoid trouble, well, let's continue to practice in the sect first. Who dares to say that the Night Emperor is scared? I will give a thumbs up. Swish. The wings spread and moved at a very fast speed. Not long after, Jun Changxiao brought Yi Xingchen and Xiao Zuji to the sect's martial arts field and summoned the disciples over, telling them to be careful when going out to do tasks and to contact the sect immediately if they encounter danger. No matter what forces the 4 martial emperors come from, if they dare to attack their own disciples, they may come again. There is no harm in being careful. But this kind of existence hiding in the dark really makes Jun Changxiao unhappy. Master, Li Luoqiu walked in and said, "What do you want to see me for?" Jun Changxiao said, "I want to vigorously develop the intelligence network. Do you have any good suggestions? The intelligence agency has been expanding, but the progress is relatively slow. He plans to lay the groundwork as quickly as possible and form a huge scale. As long as there are enough sources of information, even the Dark Sect forces hiding underground may not be impossible to find." This idea is very correct. Although the Night Emperor did not rely on intelligence, he also released his spiritual thoughts and spread them to most of the world. He unraveled the mystery bit by bit and finally found the shadowless gate hiding in the dark. Jun Changxiao could not cover most of the Xinjiang continent with his spiritual thoughts. If there were enough sources of intelligence, it would be like having countless more eyes. Li Luoqiu said, "I've been thinking about this recently. In fact, we can learn from the demonic sect and the god-killing temple and establish sub-coordinates in various states and counties and let them collect intelligence in the designated areas." This is a good idea. Jun Chang smiled and said, "It can be implemented." Li Luoqiu said, "Establishing sub-coordinates not only requires a large number of intelligence personnel, but also requires people with relatively high strength to take charge. With the current manpower of our eternal ancient sect, it may be difficult to do it. Do you think the people in the sub-coordinates of the demonic sect and the god-killing temple are all disciples of the sect?" Jun Chang smiled. Li Luoqiu understood and said, "The sect master means to recruit martial artists from outside to work for our sect on an employment basis?" "Yes." Jun Chang smiled. Jiangzi is not a disciple of the demonic sect, but he has served it for many years. If the Eternal Ancient Sect establishes sub-coordinates in various states, there is no need to send disciples there personally. They can recruit others to work outside. Chapter 620, Branch Building. After learning about the existence of the Dark Sect, Jun Changxiao realized that the waters of the Xinjiang continent were very deep. Some things might not be clear from the surface, so he had to establish a more complete intelligence agency to at least make himself less blind. Any county in southwest Yangzhou, even the royal city, must have a branch of our eternal sect. Jun Changxiao pointed on the map and drew a big circle. Li Luoqiu said, "Go openly or secretly?" "Of course, open a branch." Jun Changxiao said. In his conception, not only should a branch be built, but it should also be built in the largest city in the county and on the most prosperous street, so that everyone knows that it is opened by the Eternal Sect. Qingyang City. Sect Master Jun came in person and told Zi Guangkan about his idea of opening a branch. "No problem." City Lord Zi said readily, "You can pick any prime location." "Thank you." Jun Changxiao put a soul tempering pill on the table and said, "It's just a small token of my respect." He would not let his friends help him in vain. This is also why City Lord Z and others are willing to help, because they are worthy of deep friendship. Since they were all old acquaintances, Zi Guangkan did not refuse. He took the pill and whispered, "Master Jun, what is the effect of your pill?" "It can refine spiritual energy after taking it." Jun Chang smiled. Zi Guangkan was stunned. After sending him away, he hurriedly took the pill. When the spiritual energy in his danshan became purer than before, he was shocked and said, "It's amazing." A few days later, in the most prosperous area of Qingyang City, a high-end store opened. Many people thought it was a shop until they took off the red cloth of the plaque and found out that it was the branch of the Wangu sect. It is common for a sect to establish a branch organization, so the warriors of Qingyang City did not find it surprising. Huayang City, Zhengyang City and other cities also opened branches one after another. All 8 cities in Qingyang County have branches, while the counties outside only have branches in the main city. After all, comprehensive coverage requires more manpower and material resources. Zhenjiang City, County Governor's Mansion. Zhuo Chaoquan put the letter on the table with an unpleasant look on his face and said, Jun Changxiao wants to open a branch in our Zhenjiang County. County Governor. A councillor frowned and said, he raised the demon sect and the god-killing temple branches to the ground, but he opened branches in various counties. This boy must have some ambition. Misunderstood. Sect Master Jun is simply developing an intelligence agency. Zhuo Chaoquan said nothing. At this moment, he was very entangled. Should he agree or refuse? Thinking of that guy, who could even abuse a half-saint level strongman, County Governor Zhuo could only sigh and say, this boy has grown up, so it's better not to sing against him. He was scared and compromised. In a few days, the Wangu sect branch in Zhenjiang City was established. In just half a month, Wangu sect branches sprang up like mushrooms in various counties and main cities in southwest Yangzhou. The role of the branch is not only to inquire and collect intelligence, but also to cultivate some martial artists who are not disciples of the sect to improve their own strength. It's nothing more than, I support you with money, and you help me do things. Xianyu Royal City. What was originally an ordinary day became particularly lively. The reason is that the branch of the Eternal Ancient Sect was established in the most prosperous area of the West District. Master Jun, congratulations. Congratulations. The head of the Chu family brought servants and carried generous gifts to congratulate. Later, the heads of large families such as the Huo family and the Zhang family also came to congratulate in person. Xianyu Academy and the Certification Center also sent people. The most important one is naturally the city lord Mu Changhang. For a while, the branch of the Eternal Ancient Sect gathered many big figures in the royal city. The warriors who watched the excitement all sighed secretly that the power of the Eternal Ancient Sect, which had just risen in the martial arts world, was beyond imagination. Because it is a local force, there is naturally no problem for the Eternal Ancient Sect to establish a branch in Yangzhou, southwest China. However, it is a bit troublesome to develop outside. Many county cities must be resistant to foreign forces setting up branches in their own territories. However, many cities, fearing the strength of the Eternal Ancient Sect, could only compromise and allow the establishment of branches under their noses. Northwest Hezhou, Wancheng. Yi Xingchen had just abused the martial artists here, and not long after, the Eternal Ancient Sect branch was established. No one came to congratulate on the day of the opening. Passing warriors looked at the hanging sign with disgust. The most outrageous thing is that on this street, there are 2 branches of the demonic evil sect and the temple of killing gods in northwest Hezhou. Intentional. It must be intentional. The 2 branch leaders were so angry that their faces turned red. Everyone knows that the Wangu sect had just wiped out the 2 evil sect branches in Yangzhou, southwest China not long ago. Now they are opening a branch under their noses. They are definitely deliberately irritating people. Yes. They are irritating you. Don't care about life and death. If you don't accept it, just fight. The overall strength of the sect has improved, and the leader Jun has straightened his back. Sect Master Liluo Qiu walked into the hall and said, all 26 branches have been established. Yes. Jun Changxiao nodded. 26 branches require 26 leaders, who will be temporarily appointed by Xiao Hall members. Sect Master Liluo Qiu said, I have transferred a lot of manpower from Xiao Hall, and you have to assign more disciples. How about this? Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, Xiao Hall will select the new disciples recruited every month. Okay. Liluo Qiu left with satisfaction. A few days later, the Wangu sect established the assessment rules and opened the second mountain to recruit disciples. The news spread in various counties. Many martial artists learned that they had to undergo an assessment to join the Wangu sect, so they traveled a long distance to see if they could do it. There were quite a few people who signed up this time, as many as 6 or 7,000. Only 1,000 ore, so people could actually pass the first level of the assessment and reach the top of the mountain. In the end, more than 500 applicants successfully passed the martial arts assessment and became entry-level disciples. In this mode of recruiting disciples, Sect Master Jun did not participate. Everything was fully responsible by several elders. All he could do was listen to the wonderful sound of the number of people and contribution value increasing. Even the new disciples would be arranged by Li Qingyang and others. The hands-off shopkeeper is just around the corner. For a sect, especially a powerful sect, the sect master must not do everything himself. This development model is inevitable and the most reasonable. The benefits of the disciples recruited through assessments are gradually reflected. The hundreds of people who entered a month ago gradually adapted to the sect's cultivation system and grew very fast. The selected disciples undoubtedly have potential. Over time, the martial arts resources saved will inevitably be very large. It is obviously better than confirming the eyes or simply asking questions to recruit disciples. The disadvantage is that the elimination rate is too high. Jun Changxiao is not worried. He can recruit 200 to 300 people a month, which is not a small number in a year. What's more, even if there is no limit on the number of sect members, recruiting 100,000 disciples at once without enough resources to train them is just a waste of time. It is better to recruit slowly and develop slowly and let nature take its course. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621. Can't not allow it, and dare not. When all the branches were in operation, many cities in the states and counties were shocked because the branches of the Eternal Ancient Sect announced to the public that they were recruiting talented people with very generous treatment. For example, sincerely recruiting 50 salesmen with a monthly salary of 10,000 taels, more work, more pay. Sincerely recruiting 10 branch guardians, the peak martial arts master will receive monthly salary of 5 spiritual stones, and the martial arts king level will receive monthly salary of 10 natural spiritual stones. The condition is that only independent cultivators are recruited, and any martial arts cultivators with power or family are not allowed to disturb. Those who perform well during their tenure can be recommended by the branch to become a member of the Eternal Ancient Sect. Once this recruitment advertisement was released, it immediately set off an uproar in various cities, and many independent cultivators were eager to move. I have been working hard outside for most of my life, and have achieved nothing. Why not give it a try? Let's go sign up. For a time, the entrances of the Eternal Ancient Sect branches in various states and counties were crowded with people, and there was really no shortage of masters at the peak martial arts master level, and even at the martial arts king level. They didn't care about the monthly salary, but they were very tempted to become a member of the Wangdu sect. In fact, many martial artists had plans to join, but they had inquired and learned that this potential top 3 sect generally recruits young people with good qualifications when recruiting disciples. Working for the Wangdu sect not only earns a salary, but also gives them the opportunity to join the sect. Why not do it? Sect Master Liluokio reported as usual, the various branches have successively recruited many martial masters, including 10 martial kings. Not bad, not bad. Jun Chang smiled and said, investigate more, and those who come to work sincerely can be accepted into the sect. Yes. Liluokio paused and said, just got the news that people from the Lily Holy Sect are on the way to visit. Oh. Jun Changxiao asked in surprise, why are they here? Not long after, the letter of the visit from the Lily Holy Sect was delivered. The letter was not delivered yet, but they were informed in advance. This shows that the Wangdu sect has done a very good job in obtaining intelligence. The 3-year agreement is coming. Jun Changxiao held his chin and murmured, what do they mean by coming here at this time? Liluokio said, maybe they want to test the bottom. Jun Changxiao grinned and said, is the bottom of my Wangdu sect so easy to test? Boom. Boom. In the training room, Xiao Zuji bombarded the test machine again and again, and the strength value kept changing. His whole body was sweating. After practicing every day, he would come here for testing. Even if it was only a £1 improvement, he felt it was extremely precious. Only when you truly experience loss, you will understand how hard it is to have it again. Zairozuji is very grateful to the sect master. Without him, there would be no me today. Continuously getting stronger and defending this sect with his life is Zairozuji's life goal. Sin myself. Jun Changxiao leaned against the door and said, an elder of the Lily Holy Sect will come to visit with his disciples soon. Zairozuji was startled. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he whispered, is she here too? Yes. According to the latest intelligence sent by the branch, Mirangzin is here too. Zairozuji exhaled, shook his head and said, are you here to humiliate me again? He will never forget the scene a few years ago, when Mirangzin brought people from the Holy Lily Sect to the Zyro family, to cancel the engagement after his cultivation level regressed, and he became a cripple. Master Zyro, I came here this time for no other reason than to hope that my disciple can cancel the engagement with your direct descendant. If you have to give a reason, it is that we are not worthy of each other. It is a great opportunity for your Zyro family to have a genius with top grade spiritual roots. However, this level can be found everywhere in my Holy Lily Sect, so the engagement must be cancelled today. Every word and sentence that the elders of the Holy Lily Sect said when they came to the Zyro family pierced Zairozuji's heart, and every time he dreamed about it, he would subconsciously clench his fists. I have no feelings for Mirangzin, so it doesn't matter if I cancel the engagement. You are high above me, and I'm an ant, so it doesn't matter. But why did they have to trample on him so hard with their feet? What? This boy has lost his spiritual roots, and his cultivation has regressed? When the elders of the Lily Saint sect learned about Zairozuji's recent situation, their arrogance became even stronger. Without spiritual roots and cultivation, he is a complete waste, and naturally even less worthy of Junior Sister Murin. This is the first time I've heard of spiritual roots falling. It seems that your Zyro family has done many things that are against the will of heaven. Junior Sister, it is a wise move for you to break off the engagement. Otherwise, marrying a piece of trash will ruin your life. The disciples of the Lily Saint sect who followed him kept silent at first, probably because they thought that their qualifications were not as good as Zairozuji's. When they learned that he had lost his qualifications in cultivation, they jumped out to ridicule him. The sharpness of their words made the Zyro family's top leaders all angry. They were not angry that the Holy Lily sect was bullying too much, but they were angry that this direct line that brought glory to the family now brought endless humiliation. Elder Cheng, the head of the Zyro family, smiled and said, we will withdraw from this marriage. The second-rate sect was an unattainable behemoth for the Zyro family, so they naturally did not dare to disobey. This is 10,000 taels of silver. The elder of the Holy Lily sect said in an arrogant tone, it can be regarded as compensation for cancelling the engagement. Seeing the head of the family accept the 10,000 taels of silver that represented humiliation, Zairozuji finally couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. I'm sorry. Mirangzin said this before leaving. Before leaving, do you still want to humiliate me? Zairozuji clenched his fists, his fingernails sank into the flesh, and blood oozed out drop by drop, making him feel no pain at all. Because this little pain is nothing compared to the pain of having his dignity trampled on. After the people from the Holy Lily sect left, the Zyro family immediately held a family meeting. Oh, no, it was a criticism meeting to cause secondary harm to Zairozuji. That day, Zairozuji didn't know how he survived. When he gradually regained consciousness, he had been expelled from the family. The harm from the Holy Lily sect and the abandonment of the Zyro family made him completely disheartened, and he wandered outside for 5 years. Killing is not enough. This kind of destruction from dignity and spirit is the most deadly. Thinking of the unbearable past, Zairozuji subconsciously clenched his fists again, his face slightly hideous. Breaking off the engagement. It's acceptable. But that kind of trampling on dignity is unacceptable to men. So this is also the point that Zairozuji can never forgive Mirangzin, because every time he sees her, he will think of the almost devilish faces of the Holy Lily sect. Jun Changxiao leaned against the door edge and never spoke. Although he didn't witness the scene of breaking off the engagement, he could guess that the second-rate sect took Mirungzin to break off the engagement, and there must be a lot of verbal humiliation to show their superiority. Therefore, when that woman visited the Eternal Ancient Sect, she asked Xiaozuji to make a 3-year agreement, not to prove how great he would be in the future, but to use his strength to regain the dignity he had lost. Humiliation? Jun Changxiao said coldly, I'm a disciple of the Eternal Ancient Sect. No one can, is not allowed, and dares to do that. Chapter 622, Lily Saint Sect Visits. Jun Changxiao couldn't help with Xiaozuji's past experience, because it had already happened. What he could do now was not to let any disciple suffer any more grievances. The best proof was that Lu Qianqian ran into trouble in Lotao, northeast China, and rushed over in a fit of rage. No one is allowed or dared to bully my disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect. Jun Changxiao is very protective of his children. If you force an explanation, it is love. He loves Xiaozuji, Li Qingyang, and every disciple of the Eternal Ancient Sect. This kind of love is more like a parent of a family, silently watching the children grow up, happy for their progress, and proud of their strength. Of course, bullying by others is not tolerated. Sect Master Xiaozuji's eyes were almost wet with emotion. All resources are provided, and everyone helps out when they are bullied. How can such a lord and such a sect not let himself defend with his life? Zuji, remember this. Jun Changxiao said seriously, the first principle of the Eternal Sect is that a man's knees are made of gold, and a man sheds blood but not tears. Xiaozuji held his head high and held back his tears. Have a good rest. Jun Changxiao patted his shoulder and said, adjust your condition to the best, so that those who have trampled on you willfully will understand what it means, not to bully the poor young man. Yes. Xiaozuji said loudly, with pride in his eyes. After returning to the main hall, Jun Changxiao called Li Luoqiu over and said with a gloomy face, find out as quickly as possible who went to the Xiao family to cancel the engagement a few years ago. Xiaozuji's subconscious fist clenching and the ferocity on his face were definitely not pretended. He must have suffered a great humiliation before. Investigate. Must investigate. Even if it has already happened, I still have to care about it. He didn't ask Xiaozuji, because some things, like scars, will hurt even if they are gently opened. Well, Li Luoqiu retreated. After the intelligence was unfolded, the speed of collecting information was very fast. Half a day later, Li Luoqiu brought the news, saying, the one who went to the Xiao family to cancel the engagement was the 11th elder of the Lily Holy Sect, named Cheng Huxin, and Mirungzin was her direct disciple. There were 6 other people accompanying her. Although their identities could not be confirmed, they were all direct descendants of the younger generation. These news were inquired in Liang City, which caused quite a stir at the time. Even though 6 or 7 years have passed, it is still fresh in people's memory. However, Liang City is now more discussing. Xiaozuji, who was abandoned by his family, has a new life, and is a disciple of the Eternal Ancient Sect. What terrible achievements will he make in the future? Cheng Huxin? Jun Changxiao took note. Li Luoqiu said, the elder who visited the Lily Holy Sect this time is also this woman. Really? Jun Changxiao tapped his fingers on the table regularly, then smiled coldly and said, it's really fate. In the mountains and fields, a group of good-looking female martial artists are resting, among whom is Xiaozuji's ex-fiancée Mirungzin. At this moment, she was sitting on a boulder, with a gloomy look on her face. Junior sister, a female disciple came over and said, you haven't smiled since you left the sect. Are you worried? No. Mirungzin said casually. In my opinion. The disciple next to her said, junior sister must not want to see that Xiaozuji. After all, after a few years, the two of them have already become worlds apart. Yes. Another person said, junior sister is extremely talented, and now she has broken through to the martial king. Even if the Qingyang County trash still has his spiritual roots and cultivation, he is not even qualified to carry shoes. Senior sister, stop talking. Mirungzin frowned. Hey. One person said, junior sister, you and him are no longer engaged. Why do you feel like you are protecting him every time you mention him after so many years? Don't you still have feelings for him? Someone guessed. Junior sister is a proud girl like you. How many outstanding talents from big sects want to marry her? A guy who has become a waste is not worth thinking about. Miringzin frowned slightly. When she was young, her senior sisters often said this, and at that time she felt that this was praising herself. But as she grew older, Miringzin gradually realized that other people's praise for her was based on trampling on that person's dignity. I don't want to hurt him. I just want to practice hard and pursue higher martial arts. However, some things are really beyond my control. For example, Cheng Huxin walked over and said dissatisfiedly, you should have told your master about the 3-year agreement you made earlier. Master, don't say it. This time when we go to Wangozhang, your master will let them give up this agreement. After all, you still have to participate in the upcoming dragon and tiger competition, and you don't have the time to compete with a waste. Cheng Huxin said. From these words, it is not difficult to hear that she did not go to Wangozhang by fate, but did it on purpose. Judging from her attitude, it seems like she took her apprentice to the Xiao family to break off the engagement. What a pity. Wangozhang is not the Xiao family. Xiao Zuji was no longer the Xiao Zuji he once was. Everyone took a short break, then continued on their way, and arrived at the foot of the Wangdu sect 2 days later. Is this the sect that has become famous in the martial arts world recently? It doesn't seem to be anything special. It's not comparable to our sect. The disciples looked at him with disdain. They had heard about Jun Changxiao's battle with the half-saint, but they didn't take it seriously. Our Lily Saint sect not only has a half-step martial saint, but also a martial saint. That guy just relied on some kind of magical power, not his real strength, so there's nothing to be surprised about. The disciples of this big sect are really full of superiority. Who is coming? Jiangzi's voice came from the mountain. Cheng Huxin said proudly, the 11th elder of the Lily Saint sect has brought disciples to visit the Wangdu sect. It was her. Xiao Zuji, who was practicing, heard the voice that he would never forget, and his eyes suddenly showed endless anger. The painful scenes in the past instantly flooded into his sea of consciousness, making his face hideous and his veins burst. Many years have passed. This old woman is still as high and mighty as ever. Jun Changxiao old Indian has been trying to capture Xiao Zuji. Seeing him so angry, he clasped his fingers together, held his chin and murmured, I will help you get back the grievances you have suffered today. This elder of the Lily Saint sect. Jiangzi's voice sounded, according to the regulations of our Wangdu sect, if a sect visits, it must pass the test of climbing. Mountaineering test? Cheng Huxin frowned. Aren't these always for the sect to recruit disciples? Now that I have brought people here, I have to be the same as them. It is obvious that I don't take the Lily Saint sect seriously. Of course. Jiangzi added, if you think you can't do it, you can also take your disciples away. My Wangdu sect will not force you. This is a bit irritating. The disciples of the Lily Saint sect who came with them were all angry. A fifth-rate sect, even if they set up a mountain of swords and a sea of fire, how can we not do it? Okay. Cheng Huxin said coldly, I want to see what's so special about your Wangdu sect's mountain climbing test. As he spoke, he led his disciples to step up. But the people of the Lily Holy sect merged into the formation one after another and placed themselves on the first step. Cheng Huxin said disdainfully, this level of formation is really inferior. Let me see how I can break it. Swish. As he spoke, his spiritual thoughts spread. However, at the moment of touching the formation barrier, lightning suddenly erupted in the sky above the inside, and then became extremely bright. Not good. Cheng Huxin's face changed drastically. Boom. At this moment, a deafening explosion suddenly came from Tegu Mountain, shaking the entire ground. The formation exploded. Chapter 623. In my Wangdu sect, no one will spoil them. As the 11th elder of the Lily Holy sect, Cheng Huxin's cultivation is quite good. She has already reached the 9th grade martial emperor cultivation, and she is quite accomplished in the formation. Let us go through the entrance examination? Sure. Then I will break your formation to counter-humiliate you. Do what you say. After Cheng Huxin entered the formation, she directly spread her spiritual thoughts and cracked it from the source. However, what she didn't expect was that as soon as she came into contact with the barrier, it was as if she had encountered a ban, which directly caused the entire formation to explode. Hehe. Zendejun, who was in the sect, covered his face and laughed strangely. He has improved the formation and integrated it into the thunder formation. As long as external forces try to crack it, a big explosion will occur. Really, a bomb maniac. Whoosh, the wind whistled and the dust flew. When all the dust settled, you can see that the stairs leading to the mountain gate were directly blasted out with a big hole. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. If this power is a little stronger, I'm afraid the sect will be affected. No. After many improvements by Zendejun, the range of the formation explosion was limited to the staircase area. Because the explosion range was reduced, the power was also reduced. But it also made Cheng Huxin extremely embarrassed. She stood in the deep pit, and the air wall gathered around her body had cracked, and then she spurted out a mouthful of blood. Injured. Master. Master. The disciples behind her said in surprise. They were fine, because Cheng Huxin protected them all with the air wall at the moment of the formation explosion. Otherwise they would not be blasted to spit blood on the spot. This elder. Jiangxi's voice came. I forgot to tell you that touching the formation without authorization will cause an explosion. This is the Eternal Ancient Sect, not the Holy Lily Sect. Since you are here, you must abide by it. Please don't do it casually. Cheng Huxin's eyes flashed with anger. She knew that the other party must have done it on purpose. But she couldn't say anything. After all, since she agreed to go through the test and broke the formation without authorization, she was already in the wrong. A typical case of stealing a chicken and losing the rice. Jiangxi said, the formation is gone, and there is no need for the test. You can come up now. Remember, there are formations everywhere in my Wangu sect. Please control yourself, otherwise you will be in trouble. Go. Cheng Huxin said in a low voice. Go up. Swish. Swish. The disciples flew up and landed at the gate of the mountain. Except for Mirangxin, everyone's eyes were filled with anger. They suffered a big loss when they first came to the Wangu sect. This must be difficult for them to accept with their sense of superiority. Creaky. The tightly closed mountain gate opened. Suzaomo walked out and bowed, saying, the sect master is waiting in the hall. Please follow me in. Cheng Huxin said coldly, I have come from afar. Doesn't your sect master go out to greet me in person? If it is the sect master of your sect, the sect master will naturally greet me in person, but the elder. Suzaomo paused and said lightly, I'm not qualified yet. How dare you? Several disciples of the Holy Lily sect behind him said angrily. What's wrong? Suzaomo folded her hands and said indifferently, don't you like it? This guy is getting more and more naughty. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect couldn't stand it. An older one was about to speak, but was stopped by Cheng Huxin, who said indifferently, a leader of a fifth-rate sect has a lot of heirs. After saying that, he started to walk towards the sect. The other disciples followed closely behind, but when they passed by Suzaomo, they all glared at him with wide eyes. This hateful man is so rude and uneducated. As a famous sect, you went to the Zhao family to break off the engagement, and you laughed and humiliated others unscrupulously. You are polite and well educated. Really, double standards. Don't look at it. Suzaomo said indifferently, I'm afraid you will fall in love with me. Sorry. He said again, even if you have any ideas about me, I won't pay attention to you, because you look too ordinary. If the master hadn't gone in, this group of beautiful disciples of the Lily Holy Sect would probably have drawn their swords and poked Suzaomo into a hornet's nest. In the past, people from second-rate sects would be treated as honored guests wherever they went, and would be treated and flattered with great care, for fear of accidentally offending them. This kind of special privilege does not apply to the Eternal Sect. Because, when Cheng Huxin and others came in and walked to the main hall, no one looked at the disciples they met. I thought second-rate sects were so great, but they are just ordinary in appearance. Compared to our senior sisters and junior sisters, they are far inferior. To be honest, it's a good thing that they went to cancel the engagement first. Otherwise, with such beauty, how could they be worthy of our majestic senior brother Zhao? The disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect were talking among themselves. This sentence made the female disciples of the Holy Lily Sect even more angry. Coming from a big sect like them, they were very confident in their qualifications and appearance, but now they were rated as mediocre in appearance, which was really unacceptable. Everyone. Liluoqiu walked out of the hall and said with a smile, "Please do not wear weapons when entering the hall." The woman was wearing a fashionable school uniform for hall masters, which showed off her perfect figure. The female disciples of the Holy Lily sect looked good, but compared with our mature and charming hall masterly, they were really far behind. Some people would say, "I just like pure ones." Sure. Ling Yuangsu, a reserved and quiet girl, no matter how pure she is, the disciples of the Holy Lily sect still can't compare. As for cuteness, it's even more impossible to compare. Liu Wanxi and Yao Mengying, and even the humanized little fairy, can turn them into slag in seconds. Still want to compete? Sure. Call Lukai and Qian over. This cold and aloof senior sister, when she stood there, her aura and temperament could easily throw away these female disciples who boasted good qualifications and good looks. No wonder the disciples of the Eternal Ancient Sect would whisper about it. It was not to make things difficult for them, but because the senior and junior sisters were all beautiful, and the people of the Holy Lily sect didn't like them at all. Of course. Miringzin was also good looking. Except for her, the other female disciples were no match for her in terms of beauty. Cheng Huxin said with a gloomy face, "Martial arts practitioners always keep their weapons in their hands. This rule of not allowing weapons to enter the hall is not even in their Holy Lily sect." Sorry. Liluoqiu smiled and said, "This is the rule set by our Eternal Ancient Sect. Since you are here to visit, you should abide by it. What if you don't abide by it?" Cheng Huxin said. Liluoqiu said, "You can leave." Cheng Huxin's face became more and more ugly. She saw that the Eternal Ancient Sect was deliberately making things difficult. A newly promoted 5th-rate sect dared to treat a 2nd-rate sect like this. Where did the courage come from? Master Jun. Cheng Huxin shouted coldly, "Is this the way of hospitality of the Wangu sect? Elder Cheng." Jun Changxiao's voice came from the main hall. "Do I need to tell you the truth of adapting to local customs?" Cheng Huxin heard this, and was so angry, that her hands were shaking slightly. More. Jun Changxiao said, "Please ask your disciples to take back their anger, because in my Wangu sect, no one will spoil them." The 4th update. PS. Thank you for the 50,000 book coins reward from the Kidian reader, Unthinkable Winter. I would like to say here that, because the book was first published in the world, I can see the rewards from Q reading and questions in the background, but I have no way of knowing the rewards from Kidian and other channels, and I rarely go to Kidian. I only see the number of rewards, and I have no way of knowing who rewarded. However, the large amount will be displayed in red in the comments area. I can find the name and list it to express my gratitude. As for the other readers who rewarded, I also thank them together. Chapter 624, Arrogant Ling Yuangsu. When Cheng Huxin came here, she heard that the leader of the Eternal Sect was young and arrogant. Now that she has come here and experienced it herself, she realized that not only is he arrogant, but the entire sect is also very arrogant. Master Jun. Cheng Huxin stood outside the hall and said coldly, "In this case, I will not enter the hall. I came here today only to hope that the 3-year agreement between you, the disciple of the Eternal Sect, and my disciple will be cancelled. I didn't really come here to visit, as long as I could solve the problem." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Elder Cheng came to Qingyang County last time to regret the engagement, and now he comes to Qingyang County again to regret the agreement. If this is the usual style of the Lily Holy Sect, it is really despised by people in the martial arts world." What he said was no different from pointing at someone and scolding him. Cheng Huxin couldn't bear it any longer and said angrily, "Jun Changxiao, meaningless fights will only delay the cultivation of my disciples. If you want to fight, you can go to another sect. I understand." Jun Changxiao said, "Elder Cheng looks down on my disciples of the Wangu sect. Not looking down on me." Cheng Huxin said indifferently, "That's the fact." Jun Changxiao walked out of the hall, put his hands behind his back, and said with a smile, "Elder Cheng, to put it bluntly, among the disciples behind you, except for Miringzin, the others are not even qualified to be entry-level disciples in my Wangu sect." Cheng Huxin was even more angry. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect also had their eyes wide open. The aura exuded by the disciples of the Wangu sect was only at the level of martial artists. How could they be compared with martial artists like themselves? Don't accept it? Jun Changxiao said coldly. Why not exchange ideas? He heard everything these people said when they came to the foot of the mountain. There is no comparison with your lily holy sect? Good. I don't care about being known as a bully of women. I must beat you up, make you lose your sense of superiority, and make you face reality. Cheng Huxin said calmly, Master Jun, I came here only to cancel the fight, not to bring my disciples to challenge. Okay. Jun Chang smiled and said, we'll talk about it after you beat my Wangu sect. Really want to compete? Of course. Okay. Cheng Huxin said, I've heard that the disciples of Wangu sect are very powerful. My Lily Saint sect would like to see what they have to offer. Ling Yuangsu, fight. Jun Chang smiled. To deal with women, we must not let big men like Li Qingyang and Yi Xingchen go, so we have to send female disciples. Before they could reach an agreement, the fight turned into a quick one between the disciples. The martial arts arena. The disciples of Wangu sect stood outside. Ling Yuangsu, who was gentle in character, walked up a little stiffly under the gaze of his fellow disciples. Peak martial artist? Cheng Huxin said calmly. Lina, go meet her. Yes. The disciple of the Holy Lily sect named Lina walked over. She is the disciple of the 11th elder. Although she is not a direct disciple and her qualifications are not very outstanding, her strength has reached the level of a 6th grade martial master. That, Ling Yuangsu said weakly, you are not my opponent. Let's change to someone else. Ridiculous. The disciple named Lina said coldly, from the aura, you are only at the peak martial artist level. What ability can you have to defeat me, a 6th grade martial master? Really? Ling Yuangsu said, you can't beat me, or... After a pause, looking at the other disciples of the Holy Lily sect, he finally mustered up the courage and said, it's better to let them go together. Oh. What a shy girl. After joining the Eternal Ancient sect, under the influence of the sect master and fellow disciples, her personality began to change subtly and became arrogant. This is really sad. However, that kind of soft and weak style, similar to using a small fist to hit your chest, is quite charming. Sisterling, you have to fight with more people against fewer. With these people's strength, it would be a waste of time to fight them one by one. It's better to come up together. The contempt expressed in the words of the disciples of the Wangu sect was extremely strong. Yesterday, the sect leader issued an order that the people from the Lily Holy sect should be killed as soon as they had the chance. The way the sect leader Jun acted seemed a bit childish. Facing people with a sense of superiority, it would be difficult to venture anger if you don't use their way to make irony. Sure enough, the disciples of the Wangu sect fanned the flames, and the Lily Holy sect disciples, who had always been spoiled, gnashed their teeth in anger. Lina said angrily, I can defeat you without sister's help. Okay. Ling Yuangsu looked helpless. Old rules. The two stood in their positions and reported their names to each other. Jiangzi acted as a referee and shouted loudly, start. Whoosh. Lina first burst out her martial arts cultivation. Before she could use her martial arts, she felt a gust of wind whistling. Boom. The whole person burst out and fell directly outside the martial arts arena. Ling Yuangsu stood where she had just stood, slowly retracted her fist, clasped her hands together and said, thank you. This. Cheng Huxin was confused. This seemingly weak girl, who was obviously only a peak martial artist, why did she punch so fast and so fiercely? Sect Master. Ling Yuangsu scratched his head and said, can I continue? Yes. Jun Chang smiled. Ling Yuangsu turned around and looked at the disciples of the Lily Holy sect again and said weakly, can you all come together? The meaning of that sentence seemed to be saying, I beg you, come together, let me beat them all away. It's a waste of time to come one by one. Master, I'll go. A disciple of the Lily Holy sect volunteered. Go. Cheng Huxin said with a sullen face. As a result, after going on stage and reporting his name, Jiangzi just shouted to start and was directly blasted away by Ling Yuangsu the next second. Don't look at the dry and sloppy punches, the power it carries is very mellow. No. Cheng Huxin observed very carefully this time and said in surprise, this girl is not a martial artist, but a martial king. Have you been discovered? Ling Yuanxu scratched her head awkwardly, and the martial king's aura burst out, and a majestic momentum gathered around her body instantly. The disciples of the Lily Holy Sect, who were eager to try, felt the spiritual power that was far stronger than their own, and stood there like wooden chickens. As disciples of second-rate sects, their strength is not bad, but in front of the martial king, it is really not enough. Really? Ling Yuanxu said in a pleading tone. You all come together. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched slightly. Obviously, he acted very arrogantly. Why does he look so pitiful? Master Jun Changxiao said in a deep voice, this woman should be an elder of your Wangu sect. Isn't it a bit too much to let her pretend to be a disciple, to fight with my disciples? I'm sorry, she isn't a disciple of my Wangu sect, not an elder. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, if you Lily Holy Sect can't afford to lose, you can just not play. Why do you have to find so many excuses? Catcher. Changxiao clenched her fists. As a veteran martial emperor, her mind should be very stable, but when she came to the Wangu sect, she was so angry about the arrogant performance of Jun Changxiao and his disciples, that she almost vomited blood. All 7 of you come together. Yes. Except for Mirangxin, the remaining 7 Lily Holy Sect disciples all came up. They were the highest peak martial sect and the lowest 7th grade martial sect. The lineup was quite luxurious. Of course. This was not considered a fight of more against fewer. After all, the opponent was a martial king. Arrange the formation. After the start, the tall female disciple in the lead shouted coldly. Swish. Swish. The other 6 fellow disciples followed their mysterious steps and surrounded Ling Yuanxu in an instant, forming a special formation. 7 stars moon grabbing formation. Zhen Liao, who was standing next to Jun Changxiao, said, it was created by a martial arts master and a martial arts master. It is said that when 7 martial arts masters perform it, its power is no less than that of a martial arts master. Boom. Boom. Before he finished speaking, Ling Yuanxu gathered his spiritual energy in his hands, first performed the mountain collapse and earth-splitting fist, and then condensed the 7 mysterious clouds break, instantly knocking all 7 Lily Saint Sect disciples who formed the formation out of the martial arts arena. Zhen Liao's mouth twitched slightly. I take back what I said just now. Ding. The side quest is completed, and 5,000 contribution points are obtained. Ding. Sect contribution value 13,743/20,000 point. PS. Today is the 5th update. The end of the year is approaching, and there are many things to visit relatives and friends. I need to save some manuscripts for emergency use. This should be the last update before the new year. The author will not take a holiday unless the earth explodes. I will update 3 times a day as steady as a rock. Please vote. Chapter 625 Fate. No wonder Sect Master Jun was so eager to have his disciples fight. It turned out that Changxiao triggered a side quest when she came to the Eternal Ancient Sect. The task was simple, to defeat the 9 disciples of the Holy Lily Sect. At the beginning, Jun Changxiao planned to pick 9 female disciples to fight one-on-one, but he didn't expect Ling Yuanxu to do it alone. To be honest, there are not many female disciples with strong names in the Eternal Ancient Sect. Finding 9 of them is embarrassing for the author. Elder Cheng. Jun Changxiao bowed and said, these disciples you brought are really not good. I want to mock and ridicule. Even if they are mentally retarded, brain dead and childish, I'm happy to do it. Changxiao was so angry that her old face turned red. The disciple even used the 7-star moon grabbing formation, but it was still easily broken by the opponent. This girl is definitely not a low-level martial king. Sorry, Ling Yuanxu is a low-level martial king, and now she is only at the 1st level. Zina. Changxiao said coldly, go and meet her. All 9 disciples were defeated, and she couldn't swallow this breath. No need. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, I will take Zhao Zuji to the Lily Holy Sect to fight her on the agreed date. This sentence was telling the other party that the 3-year agreement would not be invalidated. In fact, Zhao Zuji could also fight Mirangxin now, but it seemed a bit hasty. She must be defeated in the Lily Holy Sect, in front of everyone. Of course. Jun Changxiao added, if your sect thinks there is no chance of winning, you can announce to the public that you do not accept the challenge from my Wangu sect. Impossible. The Lily Holy Sect is one of the best sects in the Xingyan continent. How could it be afraid of a challenge and let others think it is afraid of a new 5th-rate sect? Okay. Cheng Huxin said coldly, I and the Lily Holy Sect Master Jingdingjun will bring disciples to fight. Goodbye. As he said that, he winked at the injured disciple and then waved his sleeves and left. This time, I came here to cancel the agreement and let that kid face reality and stop pestering my disciple, but the result is to be embarrassing. No need to see you off. Jun Chang smiled. The mission was accomplished, and he was extremely humiliated. He had no interest in fighting an old woman. Murungzin. Xiao Zuji walked out of the entrance to the inner courtyard and said, in the hall of the Xiao family, in front of your master and fellow disciples, I lost my last dignity as a man. On the day of the 3-year appointment, I will take it back in the Holy Lily sect. There was no anger, no resentment. His tone was flat. Rather than looking for Murungzin to regain the lost dignity, it would be better to say that he was looking for the Holy Lily sect to regain the lost dignity. Murungzin stopped. After a long time, he said, I'm waiting. After that, he followed his master and fellow disciples, with extremely complicated and tangled emotions in his heart. As a member of the Holy Lily sect, Murungzin certainly couldn't stand the arrogance and domineering shown by the people of the Wangu sect. But if you put yourself in their shoes, wouldn't the insults from his fellow disciples be more serious when he went to the Xiao family to cancel the engagement? At that moment, Murungzin, as a bystander, finally realized how much pain her ignorance had brought him. This girl is not a bad girl. It's just that she did the wrong thing at the wrong time. If the two of them still have a chance, the talented man and beautiful woman, a perfect match, can also become a good story in the world. At present, there is almost no hope. Because Xiao Zuji will go to the Holy Lily sect as a disciple, she will eventually fight for the sect. This is fate. It is destined by heaven and cannot be changed. Boom. Boom. In the training room, Xiao Zuji sweated profusely and bombarded the test stone again and again. Junior brother Xiao is crazy. He has been practicing these days and has never rested. Li Fei, who was standing outside, said. Suzaomo said, this is not a solution. Second senior brother, why don't you go and persuade him? They are fellow disciples, as close as brothers, and naturally don't want to see Xiao Zuji torturing himself so madly. No need. Jun Changxiao came over and said, he knows his limits. Sect Master. Suzaomo clenched her fist and said, as per the 3-year agreement, please let the disciples fight and avenge junior brother Xiao. Sect Master, I will fight too. Li Fei said. Jun Changxiao said, then why don't you go and practice quickly? Why are you standing here like an idiot? Yes. Suzaomo and Li Fei hurried to practice. Although they are now at the king level, they know that the second-rate sect disciples are not ordinary people. Before the day of the battle, they must be promoted as soon as possible, and then they will be severely ravaged. No. They are all women, and there is something wrong with their words. Then bullying, torturing, violating, none of them seems to work. Hoo-hoo. Xiao Zuji stopped, panting with sweat pouring down his face, and said, Master, junior sister Ling can defeat them. The Holy Lily sect is not outstanding. I have confidence. Zuji. Jun Chang smiled and said, I hope you can understand that the purpose of the 3-year agreement is not to defeat Murungzin, but to regain the dignity and confidence that was once lost, and then move to a higher level. The agreement was made in the past to motivate Xiao Zuji. In the past 2 years, he has grown into a martial king, faster than expected, so he doesn't want to live only in revenge. People, when you are at a high level, you should have greater ambitions. Always with the mentality of revenge, you will eventually fall behind. The system said speechlessly. The host seems to be very magnanimous, but he doesn't know that when people come, they still encourage disciples to harm. You don't have the demeanor of master at all. Get out, get out. Jun Chang smiled. Xiao Zuji said, Master, I understand. I will fight to become stronger. Try hard. Jun Changxiao patted his shoulder. In fact, the one who should be enlightened the most is Yi Xingchen, because that guy's the one who really lives for hatred. The visit of the Lily Holy Sect was like a small episode, which ended in only 3 or 4 chapters. Jun Changxiao still developed the sect as usual, and would not be complacent, because Leng Yuangsu defeated the other party's 9 disciples. After all, the people brought in casually have the cultivation of martial arts sects, and second-rate sects should not be underestimated. And that Mirangzin actually broke through to the martial king. The speed is a bit fast. The system said, second-rate sects must be more professional than the host sect in training disciples, especially such good seedlings. They will definitely focus on training. That's right. Jun Changxiao rubbed his brows and said, the 3-year agreement is less than 1 year. We have to find a way to obtain resources. With more disciples, it is difficult for a spiritual stone vein to provide enough supply. Money is of no value to him now. The most important thing is spiritual stones, especially natural ones. We also need to find the materials for the Wu Wangdan. Because of too much demand, the previous batch of planting by Elder Weni was already out of stock. Jun Changxiao had also ordered the purchasing hall to actively purchase, but only a few were purchased, and the price was very expensive. It's time to go out for a walk. This guy wants to explore dangerous places again. After all, it is the fastest way to obtain various resources. What's more, the realm is stuck, and everything in the sect is operating normally. There is nothing to do, so it's better to go out and have some fun. Opportunities are not something you can wait for at home. You need to fight for them yourself, such as jumping off a cliff or jumping into the sea. Maybe you can encounter a mysterious cave and obtain the inheritance of a great power. Master. Li Luoqiu walked in and said, there is a letter from Maihua Palace. Oh. Jun Changxiao took the letter and opened it. There were beautiful small characters on it, and the content was Nan Huangzhou had a strange phenomenon not long ago. It is said that a strange treasure has been born. If Master Jun is interested, you can come to Maihua Palace to go together. The signer is Yi Jingsun. The handwriting was still so beautiful, which reminded him of her beautiful face. In just a moment, Jun Gusheng focused his attention on the point he should pay attention to, holding his chin and said, a rare treasure has appeared. It seems interesting. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.